Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 19th Finance and Audit Committee meeting. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Stoney First Nation. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have Councillor Armstrong attending electronically, I think. Yes? Don't see her face, but I see her screen. Today's Finance and Audit Committee meeting is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question relating to an agenda item, would you please write down your name and the number on the sheet on the table to the double doors to my left. Please note that Council Procedure Bylaw states questions will only be taken on staff reports or other business items. Looking around the crowd this morning, I think you look like a fairly civilized bunch, so I'm not going to have to read out the usual warning about jeering, clearing, capping, clapping, or anything else that comes to mind. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good morning. For late items this morning, we have a change in presenter from Ms. Christy Wood for item 6A, Manager Social Planning, to Rosalie Sorry, Social Planner. So that's a change in presenter. We have for agenda item 7E, we're adding the report titled Loudon Park Improvements, Additional Preliminary Options, as well as two delegations. We have one from Kate Rutherford and another from Kirsten Mort added to the agenda. And we're moving item 6H, which is the item titled Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island funding request, to follow 6E, which is the Loudon Park additional preliminary options. And then we'll renumber the rest of the items accordingly, Your Worship, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. So we're on to the first report, which is 6A, the Nanaimo Rent Supplement Program Update. Ms. Bhopal Singh, you're going to introduce this, please, and a couple other folks.
Okay. Good morning, Council and committee members. Through the chair, I'd like to start by introducing three of the reports in one. They're all linked. So the first two reports you have is the Nanaimo Rent Supplement Program Update, followed by an update on the Nanaimo Regional Rent Bank, and I'll introduce the speakers in a minute. And then the third report, so those two reports before you are for information, and then the third report that you have before you is the Online Accommodation Platform Fund. And I thought that to give you a bit of context as the community and yourselves listens to the two updates, the report for decision on the Online Accommodation Platform Fund, Council's aware, but those in the audience may not be, that the city receives something called the Municipal and Regional District Tax, which comes from hotels and accommodations in our region, where we get around 3%. And of that, we get a portion of that funding is called the Online Accommodation Platform Tax. And Council several years ago made the decision to allocate the funds in the online accommodation platform, so that's things like Airbnb, VRBO, and put those revenues towards affordable housing. And so the report you have before you today is to consider ongoing funding for different initiatives related to affordable housing, including the rent supplement and rent bank. I will say, coming back to Nanaimo, I'm thrilled to see the evolution of the rent bank program and the rent supplements, and see its uptake, its use, its broader application across more than one entity. And so today you'll be hearing from, with regard to the rent supplement program, it'll be introduced by Rosalie Sorry, who is our social planner, with support from Christy Wood, her manager. And you'll also hear from Deborah Hollins, who is the executive director of NFLA, or Nanaimo Family Life Association, one of the entities that distributes rent supplements on our behalf. One thing I'll point out, I think Rosalie will probably mention this too, is our rent supplements have more flexibility. And so for people who may not qualify for the restrictions under other rent supplements through the provincial government, this gives the social service agencies supporting folk who might fall between cracks an ability to assist them retaining and maintaining the housing. The rent bank is an exciting one. This, for me, was introduced with the Health and Housing Task Force and a recommendation to Council. And it's been an interesting one because Nanaimo was one of the first municipalities to take up the rent bank program. So we've done it as a pilot, and then I see that council has continued that in my absence. So we are fortunate to have Melissa Gillis, from the managing director of the BC Rent Bank, and I believe she was the same person around in 2021 when we first set this up. So without further ado, I will turn over to Rosalie Sorry, our social planner. Thank you.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Council. So as mentioned, I'm here to present a review of the Nanaimo Rent Bank as well as Nanaimo rent supplement programs, and I'll start with the rent supplements. And we do have Deborah Hollins online here as well to speak to some of this once we go along here. So I'll get started. Clicker. So the rent supplement programs support renters with payments that bridge the gap between what an individual or family can afford to pay and what their actual cost of housing is. Rent supplements can be used in private or non-market housing and is a practical way to support affordable housing that is much faster than building non-market housing units. Rent supplements can be an important tool for preventing homelessness as they enable stable housing in existing market rentals and help to reduce the impacts of poverty by freeing up income normally spent on housing for other basic needs such as food, clothing, transportation, medical services, or other essentials that individuals or families may need. These rent supplements can be provided on an ongoing basis or can be a one-time payment depending on the income and needs of the household. Excuse me. At the November 20th, 2024 council meeting, council approved the allocation of $150,000 from the Online Accommodation Platform Fund for 2025, and this is to be used solely for to support rent supplement programs in Nanaimo, and they target the key areas of housing need as listed here and in Attachment A as identified in the 2023 Housing Needs Report. In that report, the population groups with the greatest barriers to accessing or retaining stable affordable housing include renters with low income or moderate incomes, individuals with special needs, seniors, families, youth, Indigenous people, and people experiencing homelessness. In January of this year, the city published a call for expressions of interest to distribute these rent supplement funds, with 3 organizations submitting proposals. $50,000 was awarded to Canadian Mental Health Association, Mid Island Branch, Connective Nanaimo, and Nanaimo Family Life Association to distribute the funds throughout the year. So looking at CMHA, their Street Reach program operates 5 days a week, serving low-income renters and people experiencing homelessness, and connects them to housing, including BC housing programs, mental health and substance use services, and getting basic identification. Throughout the year, the Street Reach team has focused on strengthening partnerships with youth organizations, with social workers at the hospital, the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, their community integration specialists, all to support individuals in need. From January to September 30th of this year, so far they have issued 29 rental supplements totaling $19,683.66, with an average supplement of $678.75. Looking at Connective's progress this year, they've utilized the rent supplements as a flexible tool within existing housing programs, primarily serving low-income families, individuals, seniors, individuals leaving correctional facilities, and individuals experiencing homelessness. This has been especially useful for those who might not meet eligibility criteria to receive other rent support funds. So as Ms. Bobbelson mentioned, they're more flexible to other rent supplement programs, as well as, for example, with the Nanaimo Rent Bank. If they are not eligible, then a rent supplement could be issued, or it could help to reduce loan repayments. A couple of highlights for 2025 for Connective is they've established a new rent supplement committee to approve efficiency, promote fairness, and streamline decision-making. And they've been receiving referrals from Community Living BC and various Indigenous organizations. As of September 30th of this year, Connective has issued 79 rent supplements totaling $37,055.60, with an average supplement of $469.06. So the new organization to distribute city-funded rent supplement program this year was Nanaimo Family Life Association, and they're distributing those funds through their Seniors Housing Information and Navigation EASE program, SHINE for short. And this program focuses, has senior housing navigators that assist seniors aged 55 and older in finding and maintaining safe, appropriate housing. As well, they guide these seniors with the tenancy rights, they help with conflict resolution and mediation to help resolve tenancy disputes or disagreements. And FLA staff have promoted the program within their own organization in collaboration with frontline agencies, as well as through various community engagements and at locations such as tax clinics, Salish Leland, emergency shelters, food banks, and the Hub, and when supporting clients experiencing fraudulent bank transactions. As of September 30th of this year, they have issued 46 rent supplements totaling $33,186 with an average supplement of $721.43. So all total so far this year, 154 rent supplements have been issued, supporting 195 unique individuals who also received additional access to 216 additional supports and services. 94 more folks also received services provided by other with referrals to other agencies. So at this time, I would like to invite Deborah Hollins, the Executive Director of Nanaimo Family Life, just to share some insights of how the rent supplement program has impacted seniors through their SHINE program.
Ms. Hollins, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council, and thank you for this opportunity. Since April, SHINE has supported 366 seniors through case management and assisted another 473 with information and navigation around housing and financial supports. The city's rent supplement program has been an essential lifeline for many of these folks. The primary challenge continues to be addressing the root causes of instability for seniors on fixed incomes. Many of our clients spend a significant portion of their income on housing costs, typically as high as 60 to 80%, and they're easily pushed into a housing crisis by small, unexpected expenses like household maintenance and medical devices that force them to choose between these needs and paying rent. To cover these gaps, clients often resort to high-interest payday loans, creating a secondary crisis of debt that further threatens their housing stability. For seniors that are looking for subsidized or affordable housing units, they're often unable to rent these due to the design not being accessible for the needs of an aging process. So with stairs and spaces that don't accommodate wheelchairs or walkers. Landlords are increasingly misusing the mutual agreement to end tenancy by pressuring seniors into signing mutual agreements to vacate, bypassing formal eviction processes. And this tactic disqualifies seniors from many rent supplement programs and contributes to hidden homelessness. The city's rent supplement program has become a cornerstone of prevention. These subsidies help the SHINE staff to bridge these critical gaps, keeping seniors housed, preventing evictions, allowing us to work collaboratively with landlords to secure units that would otherwise be out of reach. In one example, a 74-year-old gentleman who had been living in his car, the supplement was a turning point for him. It gave him just enough stability to secure a modest apartment and start rebuilding his health. For another senior, it meant being able to pay rent while waiting for her delayed SAFER approval. Each supplement doesn't just preserve one home, it also prevents a cascade of costs to emergency services, healthcare, and bylaw responses. Seniors of Nanaimo have spent a lifetime contributing to this community, and as I know you agree, they deserve to age in safety and with dignity and not in fear of the next rental increase. Your continued investment in rent supplements isn't just a housing measure. It's a commitment to compassion, prevention, and respect for those who built the very city that we call home. I thank you so much on behalf of myself, on behalf of our clients, and on behalf of my staff for standing with our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemmons has a question.
Thank you, Ms. Hollins, for your presentation this morning. Thank you, staff. Did I hear you correctly when you said that 60 to 80% of the incomes the seniors you're supporting their income goes to housing costs. Did I hear that correctly?
That's a typical stat. So 60% on the low end, those would be for seniors who are getting safer, and up to 80% for seniors who are ineligible or not getting safer. Yes.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that: how many seniors are you turning away?
Oh gosh, thank you for asking that question. I wish I had a number. I know right now our wait list is approximately 3 months. So we are, we're not turning away, but we're holding off so many seniors that we could be helping.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and for the work that you do in the community. I'm wondering what kind of outreach you do to, we have a lot of seniors that are living in cars, that are hidden homeless, and I'm wondering what kind of outreach you do to assist people who may not know about the services that you're offering.
Yeah, thank you. Another great question. We do have a program assistant that does do some outreach. We don't have the capability to go to outreach as far as we would like to, but we are in all of the shelters, getting the word out there, and in all of the places that we know that the older adults are going to find shelter during the day, to ensure that, so for example, the hub, day program, and all of those kinds of currently existing places, the library, where we make sure that the older adults know about our program and what we can do for them.
Thank you. Yeah, I just know from running a shelter myself, it's shocking the number of seniors that show up
Yes.
at the shelter door. And I think that programs like this that prevent homelessness are really important, because the mental health implications, the disruption to people's lives, the cost to social services, to our service providers and taxpayers really is astronomical, when a small amount could really just keep people in their homes and ensure that they don't fall into the river where we need to pull them out later on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Manley. And I would just add to that, that for the many seniors that do show up, NFLA, as you know, we operate three shelters currently in the city. And the seniors that do come, often they're having to shelter with people with extreme addiction issues and mental health issues. And this is not these aren't what seniors are. This is not safe shelter for the seniors, and they certainly don't feel safe in these shelters. So thank you for bringing attention to that.
Yeah, it's an absolute culture shock for seniors who end up homeless in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. In order, Councillor Sprino and then Eastburn, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through to Ms. Hollins. Thank you so much for being here and for talking to us about this. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about the payback system. Is this a loan? Is it a one-time payment? Is it several times a year? How does that work?
We do have no, it's not a payback system. And so, these are subsidies that are granted to seniors. We do have limitations. Currently, I believe 3 subsidies is the limit. And so we monitor these quite closely, ensuring that, they're applied equitably, but also, having to make exceptions in some extreme circumstances. We have that flexibility, thank goodness. However, I just had to turn away a woman recently. The program had to turn away a woman recently who had done 3 subsidies and had exhausted all of our resources, and we just could not help her anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, we do have to, kind of have some consistent practices in place.
And one more, if I may. Similar to Councillor Hemming's questions about, how many people you have to turn away, what is the situation? I guess that my question comes around, in the case of landlords, someone had suggested to me that that they were raising the rent because they knew that there would be this supplement, and I struggle with that statement, and because as you said, some people are still being turned away. So can you talk about that a bit?
That's nothing that I have not heard, that landlords are raising the rents because of supplements. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Well, is this happening because, given your answer to Councillor Hemmings about how many people in fact do get turned away, we're uncertain, and I'm concerned that this program is going to continue to increase and how we deal with that. I'm just any comment that you have about that.
Yes, I mean, I think the situation out there, as you know, and as we all know, is desperate. And, you know, for our most vulnerable citizens, our senior citizens, it is an absolute nightmare right now for those on a fixed income. And so, yes, I do expect that need is going to grow. I wish I could say that this program and Shine could solve all of this, but we are understaffed and under-resourced as everybody else. And it is continuing to grow. And this program that the city had, you know, rent supplement has helped immensely for some individuals. Collectively, though, there are a lot of people still needing help that we just can't help.
Thank you for what you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastman, please.
Yes, thank you so much for the critical work that you're doing. When it comes to the Shine program and the Navigator, how is that Shine coordinator funded again?
So Shine is funded through the Senior Services Society, which is on the Lower Mainland. They get money from the province that they funnel out into a number of communities, Nanaimo being one of the first. We were the first in helping design and implement the program. So that's the basic funding structure. We also get, in Nanaimo, we do get or have typically gotten some Reaching Home money that helps us to, we now can hire a program assistant, which is essential in this work for that person to be able to be more mobile and, as Councillor Manley brought up, be able to address people in community.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm really familiar with the work of the Shine Navigators, and they're really lifesavers with these seniors who need help navigating an almost impossible situation. I'd be interested to maybe talk more about how we can support the sustainability of the Shine program in Nanaimo especially, because yes, I think, as you said, staffing is a big part of it, and with that wait list and having people having to wait for help, I'm just wondering, are you able to ever pivot seniors towards accessing the rent bank in the meantime, like through Connective, if you can't help them initially?
Yeah, the three of us all work together. CMHA, Connective. I mean, we work together and try to support seniors as best we can, for sure. That's really important. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions. Ms. Bopelsing, we can move on to the Region Rent Bank update.
Through the chair, yes. Thank you. Over to Ms. Sorry.
Great.
Please.
Thank you very much. So, I would just like to acknowledge that we do have Miss Giles, or Gillis, or Giles, online from BC Rent Bank. And then we also have Mr. Andrew Ferguson from Connective, who operates the Rent Bank program in Nanaimo. So he's here in person for any questions you may have. So the Rent Bank program is designed to prevent evictions and promote housing stability by providing interest-free loans to low and moderate income renter households facing eviction or needing help with essential utilities due to a shortfall of a financial crisis. So in Nanaimo, the maximum amount of a loan is $3,000 per household, with loan repayments typically scheduled over a 24 to 36-month period. Beyond financial assistance, rent banks connect clients to government benefits, debt consolidation, financial literacy programs, employment resources, and other community-based services that support renters beyond their immediate crisis. Pre-assessments are completed through the Rent Bank BC online portal, and eligible applicants then meet with Connective staff as the local operator to finalize their application, which is reviewed by a Rent Bank loan committee. Approved funds are then paid directly to landlords or utility providers. So here you'll see the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank. It is funded by BC Rent Bank, who is also funded by the province and provides financial and infrastructure support to 19 rent banks across BC. Since the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank was launched in 2021, they have provided $212,500 in loan capital, including $37,500 for this 2025-26 fiscal year. They've also provided $150,000 $56,958 in operating funding to Connective to administer the program. This year in 2025, the City of Nanaimo contributed $150,000 in rent bank capital to the Nanaimo Rent Bank from the online accommodation platform, bringing the city's total of contributions from OAP funds to $389,000 in rent bank loan capital for City of Nanaimo residents since 2021. Other contributions that have been made to the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank that have supported residents outside of the city within the region are the Regional District of Nanaimo. They've contributed $25,000 in 2021 and $10,000 in 2023. United Way of BC offered $2,500 in 2021, and the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District provided $10,000 in 2023. So while Connective does does a funding request every year of these partners annually, no new contributions have been made in 2024 or 2025. So I'll pass the floor now over to Ms. Giles, who is the Managing Director, as I said, of BC Rent Bank, and she'll be able to share more overview statistics of the Rent Bank program on a provincial basis.
Thank you very much. Ms. Giles, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you again, Mayor and Council, for having me. I had a flashback that last year my camera was not working, so I'm glad to be able to present to you this morning. And I want to say thank you to Council for your support of the Rent Bank program. You are truly a leader when it comes to municipalities that support rent banks. And as I heard Ms. Holland present, I want to just echo many of the same things that she presented. I met some of your staff at Housing Central on Monday as well, so it's lovely to see this connection. And we do see similar statistics amongst seniors in our general population as far as rent to income ratios. So people are struggling. And as this chart presents, you'll see that the demand for the Rent Bank program has not diminished. I began this work in 2019, and we continue to see growth in those renters that are seeking support, as well as the level of financial support that they need in order to maintain their housing. So as you look at this chart, I think it's fairly self-explanatory as you look at a couple of the statistics, but I wanted to point out a few things. You'll notice the pre-assessments have grown by 10%. Meanwhile, we've seen a decrease in the number of loans issued, and I'll comment about that in just a moment. But when it comes to grants and benefits or CBCHB, I just want to make note that grants are issued through funding from Reaching Home, and those are not available province-wide. And those are available only in select regions. Many of our rent banks are seeking financial assistance from Reaching Home, but may not be successful in their applications or may not have that opportunity. And when we refer to CBCHB, we're talking about the Canada BC Housing Benefit Program, and BC Rent Bank partners with BC Housing to deliver these rent supplements in select locations again. As far as the unique households and people impacted, one thing that we're doing better is reporting, and we're able to identify those number of renters and households that come one time. In the past, we've sometimes had renters return for different types of financial assistance, or they may recur more than one time in a year. And so we're getting better at isolating what we call unique households, which means they're being counted one time in that. The decrease in the number of loans, I'll just comment, we've seen this now 2 quarters in a row. I believe there's 2 theories we have as to why that is. One is that people have an increasing cost of living, and so they're being marked ineligible because they cannot demonstrate the ability to repay a loan. And the second is that it's likely that a number of those renters are now being assisted through our grants-based program or our rent supplement program. And so you can, we see that happening. So I'll go to the next slide. So this is an overall perspective of what happened at the rent bank since January of this year. You can see the number of applications that have come in through our online portal. I'll make note of 2 things. Over 3,000 files that were submitted were marked unresponsive, or people withdrew their applications. So though these numbers look very large, over 43% of people either became unresponsive or withdrew their application. We don't always know why. We can't reach back to renters because they've become unresponsive. So we aren't sure exactly what the cause is, but there is a very high percentage, and we want to look at how we can reduce this number in years to come. As well, over 2,000 of these files were marked ineligible. That's almost 28%. And this is again speaking to things like unsustainable housing or incomes that cannot demonstrate the ability to repay the loan. As far as approvals, during this first 6 months, there was 678 loans that were approved. In the city of Nanaimo, 256 pre-assessments were received, and 71 of those were approved between January and October. So there's almost a 28% approval rating. Regionally, during the same time period, 346 pre-assessments were received and 93 loans were issued. So that's at 26.9%. So very comparable between those approved in the city and those at the regional level. And I'll go to the next slide. This is just a bar graph showing the financial support. So the first slide was around the number of assessments, and this just shows you in a bar graph format the level of funds that have been issued. As you can see, again, there's a decline in the loans and grants. I'll make note that grants are probably in decline not because there isn't a need, but it's the amount of funding that is available. And then you can see total funds issued overall has grown again compared to last year. The last slide that I'll talk about is just specifically to the team in the Nanaimo Regional Rent Bank, which is operated by Connective and Andrew's team. And I just want to say that they are a fantastic partner. Lex has come on this year as a program manager and done a really great job. And the frontline staff continue to work hard every day to find solutions to renters who are in very precarious positions. So when we compare the Nanaimo Rent Bank across the province, here are a few statistics that just speak to how they're doing as a team. And so you can see that they have one of the highest approval rates from across the province and the lowest that are marked as ineligible, and very much in line with the repayment rates that we see across the province, which is hovering around 63%, sometimes goes up to 65%. I'll note there that there's also a decline that we're seeing in the repayment rates. And I believe this is also due to people's financial realities, not due to good intention or ill intent, I should say, of not repaying their loan, but they're just struggling on a month-to-month basis. I will note just quickly, as well as I'm sure my time is wrapping up, but we have introduced a new program this month, which is a credit building opportunity. In partnership with Binta Financial, we're going to be launching province-wide a opportunity for renters to receive positive credit reporting on their rent bank loan repayment, which is new. And Equifax has not done a program like this before, but we're excited to join and hoping that this means that renters also receive that opportunity to improve their credit score, and where our hope is also perhaps we'll see an increase in that repayment rate as there's a positive incentive towards repayment. So thank you again to Council for your time, and thank you to the Connective team for the great work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe has a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship, through you, if I may. First of all, I need to compliment both Ms. Giles and Ms. Sowery on your presentations. Very clearly done, and I appreciate that. I do have a couple of specific questions, curiosity questions. One is the table 4, rent bank funding contributions. I was quite surprised to note Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District as a $10,000 funder. I'm pleased about that, but I'm surprised. How could somebody explain how that came about, or are they benefactors to our rent bank in some way?
Through your Lordship, to Councillor Thorpe. They are part of the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank, but the City of Nanaimo funds are directed towards City of Nanaimo residents. So those additional funds would go to their residents. It's as part of the Nanaimo Rent Bank.
I see. All right, thank you. And my second question is, related to the stat that 52% users of the bank are identified as having a disability. Now, would I be correct in possibly assuming that that would be some type, in many cases, of physical disability, which might prevent people from holding down a sustainable job, which would result in them having a lack of funding for rent or housing?
Yes. So through your wardship to Councillor Thorpe, I do have additional stats on that actually that we received following this report. So those who identified as having a disability, 33% were experiencing chronic illness or pain. 22% were neurodiverse or neurodivergent, and 17% had learning disabilities or learning difference, with 10% having a mobile disability.
Thank you very much. And if I may, Your Worship, I'll just comment that I have long been a fan of this program. I think it's very worthwhile, so thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through to Ms. Giles, and thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I just, I wanted to ask you a question about your comments regarding, the credit issue. I'm going through this in my mind about, how people who are in such desperate need, how they pay back. And I understand that you give them between 12 and 24 months to pay back. Is that correct?
Actually, during the pandemic, we increased the amortization period to 3 years. And so we do that. And I should note that renters also have the opportunity to contact the rent bank. If they cannot make their payment, they can ask for a deferral.
Okay.
As well, they could ask for a reduction in their monthly payment. The goal of the program is housing stability.
Yes.
So we want to meet the renter where they're at. And honestly, if they miss a payment and experience an NSF, a non-sufficient funds charge, it's often higher than the amount of their rent bank loan. So we don't want to see renters incurring more debt during their time of repayment.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so when people, sorry, Worship, if I might add another quick question. If people are delayed in their repayments, in their loan payments, what happens to their credit score?
Currently, there is no reporting of credit scores.
Good.
So we have not historically been connected to any kind of credit bureau.
Okay.
And I should say moving forward that, again, we don't take a punitive approach. So even as we introduce this new program that I talked about,
Yes.
it will be reporting positive repayments. It's an opportunity, it's an equity opportunity for people to improve credit scores.
Gotcha.
We don't want to penalize them through that.
Very pleased to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any further questions. Let me just say I echo Councillor Thorpe's and the comments and the comments of others. This is an incredibly important program. I'm going to ask now Mr. Ferguson to comment, please. Locally, much appreciate your attendance this morning. You're on.
Thank you so much, Mayor Krogh and the rest of the council, for your interest in the program. I've been part of the Niagara Region Rent Bank since my time as Director of Housing for Canada Support Society through my various roles at the organization. It is one of the most important tools that we have in terms of eviction prevention, in terms of stability for housing for our seniors, families in our community, really anyone that is in a precarious socioeconomic spot in terms of their rent and their expenses compared to their income. The Niagara Rent Bank, alongside the rental supplement programs, our various other supplement programs through the Rent Bank and also separately through BC Housing, give Connective a great toolbox to address eviction prevention for renters in our community. And if I may, our team is always looking for ways in which we can help improve the lives of people that come to the Rent Bank, not just through the Rent Bank. Some become clients of our employment programs. We've worked with seniors and assisted them in getting not just onto SAFER, but individuals who come to us and they're only on CPP and they're not even, getting the old age security, the guaranteed income supplement, and we like to see them be able to expand that income base so they are able to manage their sort of financial situations better. And then we also work very much in very delicate situations. We recently had a family of 4, where the parent was fleeing gender-based violence, and really working through all of the tools that we had alongside community partners to address that situation. So it's just one of these programs that is very dear to us and to me in terms of its growth and the ability to come into someone's life with tools and resources to help them come out of, very difficult spots in a variety of ways.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any questions. Ms. Sari?
Sorry, Your Worship, I did have 2 more slides, if that's okay. May I carry on? Thank you. So just some stats for the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank. So we reported last year up until October of last year, so we're carrying on from October 2024 to the end of September of this year with these stats. So the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank has completed 351 pre-assessments, and they reported that assistance with next month's rent is the most common reason for requesting a loan. 95 of those loans were issued, totaled to $163,374.20 in capital funds, which is a 14% increase from last year for the same period, and almost identical amount of loans, so 96 loans last year, but still requiring 14% increase in that loan capital. So that reflects the increasing trend that we're seeing across BC that Ms. Giles had mentioned as well. With that, $79,800.27 in loan repayments have been collected during this period, which is an increase of 42% from the previous year, so that's positive news. We also saw 41 individuals receive additional supplemental supports. So Connective had also noted in much of their reporting that a growing trend of applicants are those who are single individuals or families on fixed incomes, such as income assistance or persons with disabilities. And also that there's an increase in clients looking for a second loan once they've paid back the first one. So the last slide here just covers some review of what the Rent Bank program has been looking at since April of 2024 to find new ways to ensure that the rent banks are being directed to population groups identified as having that key housing need. So they've been collecting some demographics, and this is collected on a voluntary basis through their online portal. So of the 90 applicants that had submitted demographics between October of last year to this year, 52% had identified that they'd had a disability, as you heard. 93% are Canadian citizens. 61% identified as women. 58% are under the age of 39, and 43% of applicants are supporting families. Some additional information that we received after this reporting as well in terms of demographics is that 83% identified their housing type as market rental, with 22% as Indigenous, First Nations, or Métis, and 22% were 2S LGBTQA+. Throughout 2025, Connective has continued to work in improving access to the Nanaimo Rent Bank for populations facing the most barriers by promoting the Rent Bank both internally and externally with other community agencies. And they've been working with hospital social workers, landlords directly, and of course BC Hydro for direct referrals. And that does conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from council? Ms. Wood, thank you. You're going to jump in now with the online accommodation, or?
That's correct, Your Worship. Yeah. Thank you for your patience to the committee. We just thought it was really important to be able to share the important information and the good work that's happening through the Rent Supplement Program and Rent Bank Program as well. So Ms. Boppelson gave a little bit of background about the MRDT tax and the online accommodation platform revenue as well. And she did mention that the OAP funds could be used towards affordable housing initiatives. So they do have that guideline, and that guideline is in your report for your information. And the province has been supporting OAP fund usage since 2018. So that's been a really positive direction from the province. In 2025, Council approved the allocation of $1.13 million of this OAP revenue for affordable housing projects related to our BC Housing and City partnership, so in land acquisition and support with some of the supportive housing projects that were in partnership through our MOU with BC Housing, and of course towards the rent supplement program and the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank. So the OAP revenue, as Ms. Balpelsing said, is tied to the short-term rental trends and does fluctuate with market trends. And what we've learned this year is that the city originally projected a $250,000 OAP revenue estimate, and that was based on accumulated revenue that we received in 2024. But that revenue is lower than expected this year. So the actual revenue that we collected between January and August in 2025 is $167,535. And our estimated revenue, of course, this is approximate for September to December, is approximately $44,000. We get our OAP funds in 2-month increments, so we haven't seen the last 2 months, and we suspect there may be a delay just due to the recent provincial strike that happened as well. So the lower numbers just reminds us again that we need to be conservative with our forecasting, and we need to make sure that we're monitoring ongoing market trends around OAP, online accommodation, and in just making sure, which we do, but ensuring our service agreements make funding contingent on actual OAP received. So Table 1 in the report outlines the current status of the OAP funds that we have for 2025. And just like last year, a report is due to Destination BC on how the city would like to allocate 2026 OAP revenue. So that's what we're here to ask the committee today. So based on the 2025 trends that the city expects, approximately $200,000 in OAP revenue in 2026, and of course this is an estimate, and combined with the estimated closing balance, we suspect approximately $301,415 would be available for 2026. So staff, through this report before the committee, are recommending that $35,000 be allocated to the Nanaimo Region Rent Bank. This lower amount is just due to some of the accumulated capital through the loan repayment and unfortunately due to the lower funds that we're receiving through the OAP. $150,000 be distributed to the rent supplement based on the need and the flexibility of the rent supplement criteria to serve the vulnerable populations, and $116,415 to rebuild funds for future land acquisitions and infrastructure or land improvements for affordable or supportive housing development in the future. And just a final note that the recommendations before the committee, of course, aligns with council's policies and actions in city plan and the integrated action plan as well. So definitely an important tool, the OAP, for affordable housing here in Nanaimo. So happy to answer any questions you might have as well.
Thank you very much. In order, Councillors Thorpe and Prino.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, before we get into the recommendation, a question, and excuse me if I'm not reading this properly, but the report reads that since 2025, January 1st, City of Nanaimo has distributed all MRDT revenues to the Tourism Nanaimo Society. Through you, Your Worship, to Ms. Wood, through a service agreement, which is fine. But then it says this excludes the portion of MRD collected through online accommodation platform. So when it says we give Tourism Nanaimo all of the funds to distribute, we're saying really all of them except the online portion. Is that correct?
That's correct, through your worship. A little bit of a play on words there. It should say except the portion from the OAP funds.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that. And when I saw OAP contribution, I always get excited, but that's a different OAP, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. Councillor Perino, then Councillor Manley, then Councillor Hammonds.
Thank you, Your Worship. And a question through you to Ms. Wood. If we do better on the OAP funds that come in, will they automatically go into that account?
Ms. Mercer, please.
Through your worship, to Councillor Perino, yes. And we questioned, when we've received up to August, MRDT funds.
Yes.
And when we received August, it was low compared to what we were expecting. Yes. And the province did tell us that they hadn't processed all of their returns for August due to the labor strike that the province had. So we anticipate having receiving more money, but at this point, we don't know what that is, so it's better to err on the side of caution.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It's just, as long as it's going to go in there, no matter what, you know, should we do better than we had originally suggested? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Through you, I'm curious about what is the total capital that's in the rent, the loan program right now? So we're getting some paid back. We saw figures for, I think it was 79,000 has come back this year, but what is the total? So we contribute to this every year. Do we have a figure on that?
Thank you through your wordship to Councillor Manley. I don't have the exact number, but it is about $100,000 currently as of the last end of the last quarter. So there's one more quarter for the year from October to December.
Okay,
There's
and then
about
how much has been lent out as well? Like, so there's the amount that's to
That
be
was the
paid
total balance as of the end of the third quarter.
back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, staff, for the presentation. I'm curious about the opening balance in 2025. It was almost $1 million. Did we not expend money in 2024? Like, why did we have such an accumulation there? Compared to the 2026, our closing balance, pardon me, the opening balance in 2025 was $914,000, and it's $300,000 in 2026. So why the variation?
I think
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmons, we're going to have one of our finance team director, Wendy Fuller, try and answer your question. Thank you.
And I'm just noting that from that 914, we provided money for the rent bank, the rent supplement program, and then also the $750,000 for affordable housing. In this year's allocation, if we go with staff's recommendation, instead of $750,000 for that allocation, it's going to be $116,000. So I'm just trying to understand the variation.
Through the chair to Councillor Hemmons, I'm just pulling up my spreadsheet right now, but off the top of my head, I believe it was there was money allocated to affordable housing for property purchases and initiatives like that in 2024, and we didn't spend it all, so it just carried forward into our opening balance, but I'm just double checking to make sure I'm correct.
That's okay. I'm just noting the hearth allocation there. Did we identify that allocation to come from the online accommodation platform funds? I feel like that we initially identified that as like a strategic infrastructure reserve, and I'm splitting hairs now, it doesn't matter. I'm just, there's a vast difference between the year's balances. I'm satisfied on that front. I'm curious though, following that, $116,000 for land acquisition and or infrastructure land improvements for affordable housing developments, et cetera. Noting that Ms. Sori said it's a lot easier and faster to keep people housed where they already are than to wait for affordable housing developments to come online. Would we be better positioned to allocate that $116,000 rather than to future affordable housing builds that we don't have any sight line on, but to put it back into the rent bank?
Through the chair, before we answer your question, I see that Director Fuller has some responses for you.
Through the chair to Councillor Hammond. So just to confirm, in 2024, we had funds allocated to the rent supplement program, to the rent bank program, and also to affordable housing initiatives. And that's the money that we didn't all spend, so it sat in the reserve, and then we reallocated it when we did our 2025 allocation.
So it was actually the 2024 year that had the surplus?
We didn't, yes, we didn't spend everything in 2024, then it rolled over to 2025, and just like this year, anything that if we didn't plan to spend everything in 2025, we take that into account when we bring you our 2026 recommendation, because the money just sits in that reserve until we eventually spend it. As Councillor Perino asked earlier, the money goes there and it stays there till it gets allocated out.
Thank you. I'm still curious about that bulge, whether it's 24 or 25. There's a big, I don't think it matters.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Hemmons, before I turn over to Ms. Wood, one of the things going back a couple of years is the amounts that you've got there. There are sometimes limits to how much can be allocated and spent by the different entities. I don't know if that's still the case, but we did in the first few years see that the amounts that we allocated weren't able to be fully utilized by the various entities who were giving them out. Now that the pilot is now a program that's more established, that could be different. So over to Ms. Wood. Thank you.
Thank you. I think just to build on Ms. Boppelsing's answer as well, is that we knew we had some MOU and partnerships with BC Housing and some plans coming forward to match some of the stuff through our 2019 commitment as well as our Heart and Hearth commitment. And so right now we've kind of gotten to the point where those are kind of rolling down the road, but we do know that, in the future, should council, wish to, do some other partnerships, that it would be a really good idea to start rebuilding that fund for any land acquisition. But of course, it's of the purview of council to decide where those allocations go, whether, you wish to put more money towards rent bank or rent supplements as well.
Thank you for that. I'll just state I don't think $114,000 is really going to make a difference in getting more affordable housing built, but these programs that we're discussing are keeping people out of homelessness today. So I'm just putting that as food for thought. I fully support staff's recommendations. I fully support funding these programs. I think they're amazing, and we might be able to do a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would someone care to make the recommended motion? Moved Councillor Manley, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Discussion on the motion?
Sure.
Councillor Manley, Councillor Perino, Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I fully support these programs. I think they're a great way to keep people out of falling into homelessness, and that is it's a very important process. I have misgivings about giving some landlords subsidies, in particular when we have large corporate landlords and real estate investment trusts who are snapping up affordable housing across this country and doing rent evictions so that they can increase the dividends for shareholders. And I think those are federal issues. The federal government needs to reel in the real estate investment trusts and the corporate landlords, and the province needs to work on that issue as well. But in the meantime, we need to take care of our residents, and this is a good way of doing that. I'm running a shelter, seen far too many working people, low-wage workers, showing up at a shelter door, far too many people with disabilities showing up at a shelter door, and far too many seniors. And so I fully support this, and I actually, I think Councillor Hemmons is on to something, that maybe the additional funds that are for affordable housing, that's such a small, paltry amount that it might go a lot farther in terms of keeping people in their homes. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a question and a comment. Now, the way the recommendation is that the $116,415 goes towards acquisition of land and or infrastructure. Should we need it for the rent supplement programs in the future, could we pull it from there? Is that doable? Once it goes in, is it doable to pull it out should we need it?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Perino, I may look for assistance from Ms. Full on that, but it's my understanding that we do have flexibility with our reporting to the province. We would have to, however, update them on proposed changes.
Because I think that was worthy of discussion about that money. It's so minimal to that particular program and might supplement a number of people that are in need. I think, Mr. Lindsay, did you want to respond to that? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. No.
Mr. Lindsay, and I was just about to comment before you comment. It's certainly worthy of discussion, but given the length of this morning's agenda, I don't
maybe today is not the day.
Today. Mr. Lindsay, please.
Your Worship, happy to defer the discussion to another day. I was just going to remind Council that it is a relatively small amount, but allows us to build up the account over time. And also, from your other land acquisition accounts, we put a relatively small amount of money in every year. So $600,000 plus a small amount of growth each year for that. With the cost of land going up, any little bit we add to these accounts is helpful. So I certainly understand it's a worthwhile discussion and debate, but I think as these accounts need, and you've heard we've spent a lot of that money in the last few years with agreements and programs with BC Housing, but building up those accounts would certainly be beneficial.
No denying it, there's no doubt. I'm just struggling with the other. Thank you so much. I'll be supportive.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons?
Thank you, Worship. Is the resolution on the floor? Or has it been voted on? Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. So fully in support. When I was a member of the Health and Housing Task Force, we did a deep dive on kind of housing needs in the community, and we identified 6,000 people in Nanaimo are precariously housed. The data that we used to kind of define that was people who were spending more than 50% of their income on housing. It was really interesting to hear from Ms. Hollins that the SAFER program is actually supporting people who are using between 60 and 80% of their income for housing. I think that just demonstrates the need. So I'm very happy to support this and will happily entertain increases to this going forward if that's Council's appetite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further hands up. The motion's on the floor. All those in favor and any opposed, none. Motion carries. Thank you very much to all the presenters, whether in person or online this morning, and everyone who took time to speak to this. As I said before, it's an incredibly important program. I grew up in a community where, although I can't say the Krogs were poor, I saw poverty face to face, and for many people, it's one fuel pump on a jalopy that gets you to work or your kids to wherever, away from complete disaster, and that disaster may mean you can't pay rent. And if you can't pay rent, it just gets worse. So these programs are incredibly important. It is money well spent, and I hope that notwithstanding the challenges you may feel when you can't provide the monies, that you take some incredible satisfaction in providing it to the people who need it, that you can do so. So thank you. The next is social planning grants, 2026. Ms. Bhopal Singh, once again, please.
Okay, through your worship to council, before I turn over to Ms. Wood to go through this, the city has been providing social planning grants for several decades. We currently have an allocation that council gives of $85,000. You'll see that for this year, it was quite well subscribed in terms of the applications. Staff work across departments with our finance team and others besides the social planning team to go through a matrix and to carefully go through an evaluation of all the different applications based on criteria, including council's priorities as outlined in city plan and other supporting documents. So without further ado, I'll turn over to Ms. Wood. Thank you.
Ms. Wood, please.
Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sari to speak to her report.
You know, this isn't a hot potato, this is a good potato. I don't understand this.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report presents staff recommendation for the 2026 social planning grant allocations. And as mentioned, since 2001, the city has provided financial support to nonprofit organizations, neighborhood associations, and recognized faith groups through the social planning grants program. Since 2017, the annual allocation has consistently been set at $85,000 and is distributed through calls for grant proposals each fall. The purpose of this program is to assist organizations to respond to social issues with initiatives that enhance social cohesion, address the root causes and effects of poverty, and foster social inclusion and equity. This year we did receive 29 applications, which was 10 more than last year, requesting a total amount of $159. A list of each applicant, including a project summary and the amount requested, is included in your attachment A. So applications were evaluated based on a matrix, as mentioned, so the merit of the proposed program or project, the quality and clarity of the proposal, the organization's ability to deliver the program effectively, the potential community impact, and how well the project aligned with the city plan's goals for a healthy Nanaimo. Each proposal included their own project budget, outlining all expenses and anticipated revenue, including other grants they may have applied for and or were confirmed. Projects were not eligible if they've already received 2 consecutive years of social planning grant funding for the same project, or if they're receiving city funding from another fund within the same year for that same project. Each submission was given a score from 4 review committee members from the public safety and finance departments, which were then combined and averaged. So staff's recommendation is for allocating the full budget amount of $85,000 to 7 applications that have received those highest scores. And that is listed in the staff report and in the recommendation displayed on the screen for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you. Every one of the organizations that we have, that you have suggested granting to, has to have a location. Is that correct?
Through your wordship to Council Perino, do you mean a physical location in the city of Nanaimo?
Physical location?
They are serving residents within the city of Nanaimo.
Okay. The next question is the eviction prevention project in Nanaimo. Is that because of the other one for the rent supplement? Is that why that one was refused, just out of interest?
Each application was based on their scoring, so
Okay.
some proposals may not have had as much detail or feasibility as other projects that were.
I'm just so glad that you're the ones that are looking at this and not me. I'd have trouble saying no to anybody, so thank you so much.
It's a very thick binder this year.
It's tough. Thank you.
Thank you. In order, Councillors Manley, then Eastmere.
Thank you, Your Worship. I concur with Councillor Perino, because we've seen very excellent applications here, or excellent organizations with, just a short description of projects. There's some very important work that's being done in our community. I'm curious whether we have an escalator on the funds for these social grants to kind of meet the inflation rate. Is this a set amount that's been the same every year for a number of years, or?
Through the chair to Councillor Manny, this is an amount that council approves, and should council wish to see an increase, they can direct staff to come forward with options for that. Thank you.
Some of the other grants that we do provide have an escalator attached to them. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Manley, yes, we do, with those specifically that are operating grants. So the different facilities that are managed on behalf of the city, like the Port Theatre and so forth, do have that specific piece. And then I'll turn to Ms. Fuller and Ms. Mercer to see if I'm correct that the standard grants like these don't typically have an escalation, but I'll look to them to confirm that.
Through the chair to Councillor Manning, Ms. Bullpulsing is correct. Most of our other grant programs do not have annual increases to them. You will remember last year as a decision point, you made some increases to some of our arts and culture grants, and that was over a period of time that those increases were phased in. Other programs only get increased at council's direction.
Okay, thank you for that. I know a lot of these organizations do amazing work in our community, and there's just a growing need in the community, and that speaks to a lot of different issues and challenges we're facing. And I'd like to thank all of the organizations that have submitted grants and for the work that they do in the community, and I'm supportive of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Did we have access to the scoring matrix at all to see how these applications ranked?
Through the chair to Councillor Eastmere, with all our granting processes, council approves the policy in the matrix, but in terms of that background technical work, that typically is kept in-house. I will turn to my esteemed colleagues to see if in the past few years anything different has been done. No, thank you. Through the chair, it appears, my apologies, I was delayed in my response back to you. So typically the process has been that council has staff do the technical evaluation. Should council wish to direct otherwise, then you can do so. And again, it's that kind of challenge that where we are carrying out to the best of our ability evaluations that meet the direction, the policies, the criteria, strategic direction that council provides. Thank you.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, a comment and a question. First, there was a time, as I recall, when these decisions were made at the political level here at the council table, and I remain convinced that that was not a wise course of action. It led to personal prejudices and favoritism, and I have absolute confidence in the integrity of our staff to apply the criteria fairly to all the applications that they receive. So thank you for that. As Councillor Perino said, it's a very difficult job. One thing that I thought I heard stated, but I did not see it in the written report, was to do with criteria, and that was that the same project could not qualify for funding for more than 2 years in a row. Now, do I hear that to mean that the same organization could still apply successfully if it was a different project that they were sponsoring? There's a little bit of a distinction there, because a number of these organizations are certainly very well known in the community, have a higher profile than others, and they could be successful year after year, quite rightly, but if they were sponsoring different projects. Is that correct?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Thorpe, that's correct. So they're able to apply for the same program or project 2 years in a row, but after that, if they wish to apply for a social planning grant, it would be for a different project or program.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any for Ms. Bhopal Singh.
Through your worship to council, one thing I might point out is just like council recuses itself when there may be a conflict of interest, our staff, including myself several years ago, will recuse themselves from an evaluation if they have a family member or a conflict with one of the applying organizations. So I thought it was important to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Eastmere?
Thank you. I just think it is really tough when you see this list and like the need in the community. I can't imagine having to make these decisions, and I do think it's hard when I look at this list of projects to think that some of the ones that have been selected are going to have the biggest impact as far as keeping people housed and keeping people fed, which I think are my biggest priorities right now with the social planning grants. And I think some of these organizations are very well funded at upper levels, and obviously not funded to the degree that we need them to be, but I really struggle when I look at this list and the allocations to see that we would really be getting the biggest bang for our buck with what I believe are the priorities when we're talking about social planning grants. So I don't personally feel that I can support the recommended projects. I think there's a lot of good work happening here. I would be interested in, because we haven't had an increase to the social planning grants in 9 years, I really think we need to have a serious conversation about increasing the amount to the social planning grants, because this frontline work is really, really critical, and we get a lot out of the money that gets put into these grants. But at this time, I can't support these current allocations. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion isn't on the table. So Councillor Manley makes the recommended motion. Councillor Thorpe seconds. Discussion on this? Councillor Hemmons?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support staff's recommendations. I agree with Councillor Eastmere that examining how much we give out would be worthy endeavor of this council, but I do not agree that that it should be a political decision about where these monies go. I think that, as Councillor Thorpe has pointed out, that could muddy the waters very easily and make this very complicated, and I trust staff on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think Councillor Thorpe makes a great point that this is, it's good to have it off the political table, and I trust that staff have done their due diligence of going through these applications and chosen organizations that meet the criteria. And yeah, I know we could be doing a lot more to feed and house people, always. And I agree also that we do need to look at increasing the funding for things like this, because there is a great need in the community, and these organizations fill a role. Nonprofits fill a role in our community to do things that governments would spend a lot of money to do otherwise. So I appreciate the work that's done in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in, Ms. Wood, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment through your worship to Councillor Eastmere, just to say that it's grueling for staff. We follow the matrix very closely, and I think just in May I came here telling you how many gaps we had in food service, and part of the scoring matrix is to look at the connections to city plan and the goals that council has, especially around those types of services. But there are other elements to it, whether the proposal criteria, like how well the proposal's written, the budget around the program. And so that is all included in the scoring. And even though it's weighted heavily more on filling the need, we still score according to the matrix. So it can be pretty heartbreaking knowing that the need is there. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere?
Thank you, and I just want to express my gratitude to staff, and my decision's not, it's not that I don't have faith in staff or that I don't respect your work. It's just that when I think about my priorities for the city and my priorities for these grants, it's not quite there, but I appreciate the work. Thank you.
Councillor Hemmings.
Can't help myself. Thank you, and I just appreciate this exchange that just happened, and I appreciate the heart that Councillor Eastmere is bringing to this. And I wonder, looking at the purpose of the social planning grants is to assist organizations in responding to social issues with initiatives that enhance social cohesion, address the root causes and effects of poverty, contribute to the vitality of our community, and foster social equity inclusion. That is a very broad mandate. And I wonder if perhaps Councillor Eastmere at a future date would be interested in narrowing that mandate so we could look at a very focused, is it about food, is it about shelter? Might just be an interesting next conversation. So thank you, I'm in support.
Well, thank you very much. That's inspired me to comment, and I was going to resist. The city is already taking up much of what is provincial responsibility with a tax and resource base and staff who are, how shall I say, an overworked staff and the population, if I believe some of them feel they're overtaxed. So I'd be reluctant to move away from what's already the, how shall I say, the strategy, the scheme, the philosophy behind what we're doing. We're a municipal government, we're not the provincial or federal governments. Having said that, all those in favor and those opposed, Councillor Eastmere is opposed, everyone else is in favor. Thank you.
Your Worship, I'm just noting the time, and the next item on the agenda could take up some time, and I'm wondering if you...
I was going to, Ms. Gurry, you and I are in the same wavelength this morning, I assure you. The next item will probably take some time, so let's take the morning break now. 10 minutes, please, everyone.
Around every corner and under every corner, the city has assets, infrastructure that quietly adds convenience to our day-to-day living. From the pipes that carry our water and wastewater, to the roads that we walk, cycle, and drive on, to the amazing parks facilities that keep us active. We depend on this infrastructure without really thinking about its upkeep. That is, until something goes wrong. In April 2020, the water main that runs beneath Bowen Road broke and burst in a big way.
I don't think there's anything we depend upon in this community more than our water supply. We have dams, we have a reservoir, we have a water treatment plant, we have big water trunk mains and distribution mains, fire hydrants, and all kinds of other pieces of infrastructure totaling $1.5 billion that all bring water to our 100,000 residents. We have to be really careful to plan and make sure that that system is robust and resilient so that nobody's ever without water.
The water main on Bowen Road was quickly repaired, and recognizing that the entire water main was at risk, a plan was quickly moved forward to replace it with the Midtown water supply. a new seismically safe water main built for future growth and expected to last for nearly a century. A parallel and backup water main has also been installed and can be used whenever the main line needs repairs.
When we plan to replace our assets, our underground infrastructure, our facilities, all of those sorts of things, we want to make sure we're future-proof as possible. We're really looking out for the long-term best interest of the community. And so we want to make sure that the infrastructure is resilient, it's hardened, and it has sufficient capacity for growth, for unpredictable events such as earthquakes or wildfires. And we want to make sure that we're protecting the environment as much as possible.
Making smart, modern improvements and focusing on sustainability applies to all of the city's asset management planning, regardless of a project scale.
As our infrastructure ages and it becomes time to replace it, because that's really part of the asset management life cycle, we always strive to replace with newer technology, more effective, more efficient fixtures, or even enhancing and taking advantage of newer technology. So a few examples would be LED streetlights, replacing the old high-pressure sodium, very environmentally invasive, with LED, much more focused and much less cost of electricity. Another example would be the boilers in our pools. We're getting away from the intensive GHG gas boilers and shifting more and more to electric, and still using the old ones as backup. Another great example that we'd like to point to, it's been really relatively under the radar for the last 10 years, is at our #1 reservoir, we actually, as we fill the reservoir, generate electricity and sell that back to the grid to the tune of about $100,000 a year.
Even with the city's best planning, the unpredictable can happen, such as the water main break on Bowen Road. Planning for the unexpected is one more reason why the city maintains an asset management fund. With $4.8 billion in infrastructure, planning and budgeting for the future is crucial to keep Nanaimo healthy.
So a huge part of planning ahead involves determining how much money is needed to fund the replacement of assets, and the city uses long-term planning to do that.
The city has 3 asset management funds that help with long-term infrastructure planning. One for water, one for sewer, and a general asset management fund.
So the contributions to the 3 asset management reserve funds help to smooth out the impact on property taxes and user fee increases when replacement is needed.
You know, for the last 10 or 12 years, Nanaimo's council has been really supportive in annual contributions and increasing approximately 1% of taxes every year dedicated to asset management to ensure that our funding to replace our old assets remains sustainable.
As Nanaimo is one of the fastest growing cities in BC, the demand on our infrastructure is growing right along with it. This makes long-term planning more important now than ever.
Without that contribution to asset management reserves, we wouldn't be able to ensure that the services Nanaimo continues to rely on and appreciate and enjoy would be able to be sustained.
Starting up a short-term rental in the city of Nanaimo? From marketing to pricing to your business platform, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. One piece that you won't want to miss is your short-term rental business license. Puzzled? We're here to help. A short-term rental is the rental of a living space for a period of less than 30 days back to back. By following the guidelines of the Short-Term Rental Operators Guidebook, short-term rental operators may qualify for a business license without hurting the long-term rental market in Nanaimo. It's also about being a great neighbor. By getting a short-term rental business license, it's like saying, hey, I promise that my guests will have a dedicated space to park in and that they won't be too noisy. This is, after all, a very respectable establishment. To learn more about the City of Nanaimo's short-term rental guidelines, or if you need a hand getting started with your business license application, connect with us. We're here to help.
Terminal Avenue is the gateway to downtown Nanaimo, and whether you're arriving from the north or the south, it's the first impression of Nanaimo's downtown. While the first impression isn't anything to celebrate yet, positive change is underway, growing from the efforts of grassroots organizations and the vision of Nanaimo's community. A better Terminal Avenue gateway is being created. In the early coal mining days, Terminal Avenue wasn't a roadway. In fact, it wasn't even land. It was a tidal inlet and regularly filled with ocean water. Throughout the coal mining days, the inlet was a depository for coal mining tailings. As time passed, the inlet vanished and new land formed. Through the 20th century, Nanaimo continued to grow, and along with it, the city's transportation needs. The corridor of new land became Terminal Avenue and a part of the Trans-Canada Highway, routing travelers through the heart of Nanaimo's downtown. Over time, more and more people came, more cars filled the streets, and we ended up with the highway-oriented Terminal Avenue that we see today. With the creation of the Nanaimo Parkway in the 1990s, a highway that bypassed the city, Terminal Avenue no longer needed to be just an auto-oriented streetscape meant to move cars quickly through the city, and new potential for the area came to light. In 2016, the Downtown Nanaimo Business Improvement Association, together with the city and the Ministry of Transportation, undertook Terminal Nickel Reimagined, a process that invited the community to help create a toolbox of ideas to improve the streetscape. Now those tools are being put to work, and that work began beneath the Bastion Street Bridge when it was given seismic upgrades. New art integrates with the bridge supports and adds a moment of color to the streetscape. Another step comes with the construction of a beautified streetscape and park spaces along Terminal Avenue between Esplanade and Commercial Street. Following that, a big stride forward will come with a new downtown transit exchange on Terminal Avenue, which will expand multimodal connectivity in the heart of downtown. And we're poised for a giant leap when Terminal Avenue streetscape upgrades are extended through downtown all the way to Stewart Avenue. Back in 2015, residents were asked to share their greatest fear for the future of Terminal Avenue. That fear? Nothing will change, and the challenge of achieving an active and attractive gateway to Nanaimo is insurmountable. Those fears were heard, and the challenge accepted. Today we're reimagining Terminal Avenue as a walkable, green, and beautiful downtown street.
Recycling.
And I'm Wish Cycling.
Wish, I have to say, I'm really loving your t-shirt.
Well, I do love recycling.
Stop it. You're gonna make me blush.
Absolutely. Wait, no, not you recycling. I heart recycling. I like you, but I love the act of recycling. I put everything in the blue cart.
I don't know if you understand the blue cart completely. Have you ever heard of contamination?
Oh yeah, that's when your Brussels sprouts touch your mashed potatoes.
No, that's brumotactilophobia.
You lost me.
Recycling contamination happens when things that can't be recycled end up in your blue cart.
Oh, like Brussels sprouts.
No, I'm talking about recyclables, like packing foam or glass or soft plastics. Things that can't be sorted at the depot. If these things end up in the truck on pickup day, then it contaminates the whole load, and then the whole load is trash.
Oh, I don't heart trash.
Exactly. That's what wish cycling actually is. It's putting something in your blue cart and then just expecting that someone's there on the other end to sort it. The truth is, our sorting process doesn't allow for wish cycling.
What was that?
Sounds of the machines grinding to a halt at the recycling depot. If soft plastics get into the sorting belts, then the entire process comes to a halt.
Soft plastics can do that?
Sure can. That's why your blue card is only for packaging and paper products.
Oh, I see. PPP.
Exactly. Huh. Do you still love recycling?
I sure do. I heart recycling.
That's my name.
This is a City of Nanaimo storm drain. This is also a City of Nanaimo storm drain. The only thing that goes in this is rainwater. Anything other than rainwater ends up into the ocean, which ultimately affects the marine life. There's many different styles of catch basins. These are just two, but they both collect rainwater. One has a fish stamped on it. That's telling me that it's unprocessed and it goes directly to an environmentally sensitive area. This is the outfall, so anything that you put in that catch basin is...
Give a minute for Councillor Eastmere to... Well, Ms. Bopel-Singh, please proceed. The next item is the Loudon Park Improvements Additional Preliminary Options. One of our more challenging files in the last 2 decades, I guess.
Good morning again, Mayor and Council. So it's with great pleasure that I come before you. I think this is month 3 of my return to the city in this particular role. So I want to acknowledge the community members and the groups behind me who have been working with my predecessors, the staff to my left and to my right and behind me. So we have come back to you today to give you an overview in response to your direction to come back with a range of options that you directed staff to do back in May of this year. So since May of this year, we have announced that Council has invested in 2 key properties, expanding the park area. So while Council is aware of this and some of our audience, others may not be. So this includes 4246 Victoria Avenue. It also includes 4288 Victoria Avenue, currently 2 residential homes on these sites. Purchasing these lands also allow us to access some encroached lands, and you'll see those in the yellow highlighted area at the top of the screen. And these lands had some access challenges because of encroachments with the residential properties over some time. And then we are also able to then look at closing the road, further expanding the site. So all of these collective actions allow us to expand the park by about 29%. So I'm going to run through basically the report before you. In response to the very rapid announcement, end of September, we acquired, by the end of September, both those properties. We announced it promptly on October 1st to the community, and in order to give Council the option to consider recommendations from Finance and Audit as part of your budget decisions, it was important to come back to you quickly with a range of choices. So the engagement that happened in 2025 in October is not intended to be extensive community engagement, but more of an ability to check in with you that we're on the right path with the options. We could have presented you with options without checking in with the various interest groups and stakeholders, but this way we get a little bit ahead. They get a chance to give you their comments, and the report before you, we are not recommending any one of the options. We're presenting the pros and cons, and you may or may not agree with staff's assessment of that, but the community behind us will tell you their thoughts. So without further ado, with the expanded park area, one of our first things to do was to look at the new lands as a whole and how we could have a high level site layout with the additional lands. So I'm just going to see if I can access the laser pointer. I wonder if somebody's got that somewhere handy. Okay, maybe I'll just describe it then. So what you see here is one of the big objectives prior to me coming on to this project was ensuring a balance of accessibility to the park for the neighborhood, the use of the park, both citywide and neighborhood, looking at, Council had previously endorsed an activity center and a boathouse. We have other values around preserving established trees. And what you see here is a look at the green area. Isn't the only area for trees, but it looking at picnic trails, picnics areas and trails, and integrating that with the existing Loudon Trail. You'll also see the playground that exists, thank you, in the purple bubble before the beach area. That is generally close to the area where the playground is, but looking at keeping that, maintaining that and integrating that in the existing tree canopy. And then a look at the key piece for council and the community is relocating a potential building site for one or more buildings on the existing sites of the residential homes that were acquired and the road right of way. So, and then looking at also improving parking circulation. One thing I will point out, in case there's any concern, a few years ago, council closed the road in this area that circulates out. And the concept here at this point is to allow basically event and food truck circulation and parking, so not regular circulation, with an access gate here. So just, I know there's been concerns in the community that there was late hours circulation that wasn't working for them, and this would be very much tied to an event type controlled access that would allow for big boats and so forth to pull through more smoothly. So, as part of our options for you, it was important to give you consideration of reciting two concepts that you've seen before. One is one that went to a fairly high level of design based on council's initial direction and then a pause. So that is option A. And I'll show you a drawing in a minute that shows the relocation. But originally the siting was in the middle of the park as you approach it, right towards the waterfront facing towards the north. The other one was a modified structure intended to address concerns about tree retention and other park values. And you'll see in that one, option B, the original siting included putting the boathouse back on the current storage area in the blue, which is currently a paved area, away from the trees, and then retaining the existing washroom building for accessible washroom improvements. So council, one of the things I would like to emphasize is what we're providing you is the idea of what uses do you want to pick. This is basically pick your own park adventure. And so each of the options has varying uses and different components. And so we basically have 4 options, technically 5, because C1 and C2, the main difference between that is community space, but there's a similar building footprint in one building. And I'm going to run through each of the options. So what we're encouraging council to do is, because this is a new site, we have to be sympathetic to that. And so with option A, relocating that onto the new lands allows for us to pull away from the areas of trees, other natural values. And what we're showing here is the choice in price. Basically, the numbers you see are related to square footage. And the blocks that you see that our consultant did for us is a sense of giving you the comparison of spaces for different uses. So in option A, the overall footprint is in the white box that you see, and it includes, okay, beg your pardon, it includes a boat and equipment storage area, club space, community space, so that's a bookable meeting space, accessible public washrooms, and then an area allowing for building operations. So that would be storage and a few things like that. So the club space would include a fitness room and office space shared by 1 or more clubs involved in flat water. And by the way, the term flat water is any kind of non-motorized vessel that it can be paddled on a lake. So if I use the term flat water, it's to include a range of vessel types, whether it's canoes, kayaks, paddle boards, rowing, etc. And in this option, as well as a community room, there is a modest kitchen prep room and equipment room. So one of the things I might mention when we talk about community space is council, the decision before you and the different options for the uses at this site. One of the considerations that we have is the fact that the Departure Bay Activity Centre no longer exists due to the fire. we have aging and a lack of community space throughout our city. So I observed that while knowing that you're going to balance a range of different needs, both the neighborhood's focus, the wider city needs, and I thought I'd just point that out. The other piece is in every option, all the washrooms will be gender neutral. So we're not going to get you into the weeds of whether there are change tables and things like that, and ask that you trust that, like Westwood Lake, staff will be looking at the most, the best practices for accessibility, both in trails, washrooms, etc. And we do plan on continuing to have a close tie to our advisory committee on accessibility and inclusion in any more detailed designs. So option B is the more modest option that you've seen before. And I guess I'm not pointing out the price points here, but the prior one was on the high end, 11.5 million. And these are very high level cost estimates because we are working with option A actually is the most sophisticated because we've done the most design work, but all the rest of them carry some unknowns. And it's not only the building that we're giving the cost for, but all the other pieces that allow a building to be built. So site preparation, environmental considerations, all of those other pieces, infrastructure, water, sewer, hookup, all of the rest. Option B is, again, you've seen it before, it's now relocated on the site of the two homes. It is two buildings, so reusing the existing washroom, building a new washroom at that site. In this option, there would not be any community space, and the price, the high-end price point reflects that, 8.1 million roughly. Option C has two components. Again, it's one integrated, this one is one integrated building, and this option and option D were created based on input from the Wellington Action Committee, the Nanaimo Rowing Club, the Nanaimo Canoe and Kayak Club, the Flatwater Society, the Friends of Loudon Park, and City of Nanaimo staff. And our staff are key in this because they are the ones that have to operate and maintain facilities 24/7. So getting their input is very key. And I should have mentioned to my left and right, we have representatives from engineering, parks, rec and culture, and then finance as well, who are key in this. So this one was what the clubs and the different groups considered were suitable areas or sizes for fitness and office space. Again, other options can be adapted to meet this. This one includes in C1, the difference between C1 and C2 is basically the provision of community space. So the difference of 10.2 million and 9.4 is basically square footage. Option D is an option of using two buildings, an existing building, which is the second home, and using that, renovating that for the club space, fitness space, and community space. And then option D would be a separate boat storage with an equipment room and also integrating washrooms. So the one risk with the price point of this one, which is around 9.3 million, is with renovating an existing building, there's often big unknowns and long-term, technically longer operating costs, but it gives council another option to consider in terms of price points. So generally, if we're thinking about space, this layered map that our team did shows you how roughly the footprint, and again, depending on building design, it would be sympathetic to the different areas. What you'll see there is the siting of the building, whatever may or may not be chosen by council, would stay out of the riparian area or the water setback, would try to mitigate and avoid the existing trees, which it does here. And again, it shows the different footprints and the comparison of price points. So council, in the report attachment C from the consultant, the executive summary gives a very nice overview for people who are watching online who've yet to delve into this. This is a summary of some of that information that you've got in attachment C, and basically comparing the prices with the square footage and a sense of the siting. So with that, and maybe I'll leave this up for a second, again, the key pieces between options B and C2 is the provision of community space. Oh, and the other key piece you'll see in this table here is we've got the total building costs, and council also has the option, I think I've lost my clicker ability. In the bottom table, in the middle, you've got something called non-building park improvements, where staff have bundled the estimated cost of things like that are not related to the building itself. So the building costs, just so you know, because it includes an activity center and boathouse, essential to the building costs in the 11.5, the 8.1 million, and that line at the top includes a dock, because part of the purpose of a boathouse is to have a functioning dock, and to not include that in the cost would be challenging. It also includes circulation that's essential to improving the new paved area that comes with the new properties. And then we parsed out the non-building improvements of 1.3 million. So that would be things like picnic shelters, playgrounds, other improvements throughout the site that aren't related specifically to use of the building. So it's possible to phase these for council or to consider bundling them in. For the purposes of this report, we provided you with the building-related costs, but council does have the option to phase the others in at a later date. So this high-level graph here shows you the comparables of the prices, but again, the emphasis is it depends on your uses and the amount of square footage for each of the uses. So the next steps, pending your direction, would be to have some direction from you on advancing a design. We pulled this together in probably about 6 weeks, so a very rapid turnaround. And to spend more money on design without having your direction would not be prudent. We would also be doing more advanced community engagement once we have further direction from you, and then returning to you with a more advanced option for your approval for the funding and more detailed costs. So we would be going to more detailed design and costs to come back to you with. Right now, we've given you a very high level rather than the low end estimates. We've given you the high, and our hope is that by doing more detailed design, ideally we come in under those numbers. And then the next steps, council willing, would be a construction schedule. So with that, I will pause, and I might add that if council is happy with the way this report is presented, I give credit to the team, and if you're not, you talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got 3 right off the bat, and then of course we have delegations as well. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through you. So just for example, on option A versus option B and C, the amount of space that's been allocated for the equipment for the boat storage is the same, is that correct? It's only the community piece that's smaller, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons and Councillor Thorpe and Councillor Eastmead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to indicate a preference for one design over another ahead of hearing from delegations. So these are just general questions. Ms. Bopal-Singh, you noted that this is a very rapid turnaround. This is to get it into this year's budget. But council is not locked into making a decision today.
Through the chair to Council Hammonds, absolutely not. And I think that's one of the key points is when council, we present you with recommendations or reports, you have the ability to defer, you have the ability to direct us however you wish. Thank you.
Thank you. A few follow-ups. I noted that you're talking about estimates. I don't think I've seen a project come in under budget, and so in current, economic climate, how good are we at kind of correctly identifying those estimated costs? Just want to get a sense that we're actually working with real dollars here.
Okay. Through the Chair to Councillor Hemmons, I have with me our Manager of Construction Projects, Michael Van Sale, and also I have Mike Strain from, oh, not Michael, my apologies, I blended 3 staff into one, Marcus Van Sale. Behind me, I have Mike Bryson, and Mike, who is one of our Deputy Directors of Facilities, and then I also have Mike Strain, who is with CapEx, who used to be actually with us. So with the question of pricing, I think I'm going to turn it over to them. What I will say is, and they can walk you through how those cost estimates were done. They were based on 2024 figures with an escalation of 15%. So why we gave you the high end was to account for the construction costs being scheduled in 2026 and beyond. So I'm wondering if, Marcus, you may wish to tackle.
If I may, Ms. Bowles, I'm actually satisfied with using 2024 prices with the 15% on top.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense to me, and I realize at this point it is a bit ethereal, but I just want to just point out that when we're saying it's 9.4 versus 8.1, we actually don't know that yet. These are just estimates that we're working with.
Through the chair to Councillor Hemmons, I would say that despite these being quite high level, we did a pretty stringent cost comparison of the differences based on square footage. And there are some opportunities to reduce costs in terms of there are some options that may have more space for certain functions that could be reduced, but it comes down to the space allocations in terms of the price. So what we've given you is the spread between. Now, interestingly, the costs really didn't have as much variation as I thought they would. I'm wondering if I could allow Marcus Mansale to say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, and through the chair, excuse me if my protocol is a bit, this is all new to me. I think to understand the real essence behind this, we're giving a range of options. We're hoping what will come out of that will be a fix on a budget. And from that, our intention is to ensure that the design is then completed to meet that budget. So at this stage, it's the budget that's going to be the driver. And you'll see there is a spread there in cost, and that spread speaks to the level of specification that we can add to the building. So if we want to go for a higher level specification, we go to a higher budget. A lower level specification will bring us to a lower budget. And so there is movement, there are variables that we can use, but what we're really trying to do is pin down the budget from which we start using those variables. But as Ms. Bhopal Singh indicated, we've got a solid take on per meter costs from the previous iterations, and we've brought in contingency and in escalation on top of that.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Through you, just for clarification, in any of these options, is the fitness space also accessible to the public, like at Bebin or NAC, or is it club exclusive in all of these options?
Through the chair to Councillor Eastmere, at this point, it is tied to the club use. However, if that's something that Council wanted to discuss, we could see how those arrangements would work with the various providers.
Okay, thank you. And then when I'm looking at option C, 1 versus 2, in the report, it kind of intimates that that change is really based on a preference from a single neighborhood group driving the inclusion.
Through the chair, because I would hate for this to cause any divisiveness, to provide clarity, one of the neighborhood groups said, look, our priorities for investment, it's not that they're opposed to community space, their priority is more for accessibility to the outdoor space. The other piece is it's a cost comparison for council, and that's why option B was brought forward to you initially. That was to give you a sense of how you could achieve some of the uses. So I would highly, perhaps I would frame it that it's not that any one group is opposed to community space, it's more that they have preferences for investments if there's limited funds in other areas. And actually, through the chair, they may tell you otherwise and correct me, because they will get to speak today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I have a few questions. One, with the renovation in option D, it's a change of use, so that triggers a number of things, as I know. We don't have a cost estimate on what that looks like? Has there been an assessment on the house?
Through the chair, not to the level of detail So there's been a high level, and Mr. Van Zyl can actually jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. We didn't have time to do that level of investigation, and so there are a fair few unknowns. And of course, whenever you convert something from one use to another, the code changes get quite complex. So we'd be moving from residential to an institutional type use.
Yeah, so that would require changes to the bathroom, changes to the doorways, all those kind of things.
That's correct.
Okay, the other thing I was curious about, it mentioned special initiative reserves and strategic infrastructure reserves, and I didn't see in here in the report like a chart of where we're at with those reserves.
Right.
And that, I imagine, might be coming Friday.
Okay. Through the chair, if I could turn over to Director Fuller for that response. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Fuller, please.
Yes. Through the chair to Councillor Menley. So if Council will recall, when we allocated the 2024 surplus, you put $4 million into the Special Initiatives Reserve to support initiatives or projects that Council wanted to move forward. You've already allocated some of that funding to move forward the South End Community Centre design to the next phases. So all of the options presented today would use that remaining funding in that $4 million to move this project forward. And then we had to look at other funding sources. So we did look to your Strategic Infrastructure Reserve, which again is a reserve you use for projects and initiatives that you want to move forward. And we haven't provided a closing balance because there's a lot of other reports on the agenda that also are looking at using that funding. As well, we have our decision slides coming up for the budget, and some of those decision slides depend on options and decisions you might make, and the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve is a funding option there. That's why we've kind of cautioned in the report, you need to consider all your priorities, and some of the larger options here that require more funding will give you less flexibility going forward in your Strategic Infrastructure Reserve. Some of the lower cost options provide you with more flexibility. The other challenge too is the funding from your Strategic Infrastructure Reserve does not come from dedicated funding sources. So you have the Fortis operating agreement, and we at this time don't know how much we will get for 2025. We receive that money at the end of the year. And then you have a portion of casino revenue, and casino revenue for the first 3 quarters of this year has been lower than anticipated. So we are anticipating that the revenue is going to come in under what we were expecting. So we're trying to be conservative and make sure we don't bring, like, that you have the money there when the initiatives that you want to fund from the reserve become available. So I do have multiple spreadsheets for each of the options and can address specific questions, but that's why we didn't put it into the report, because it would have made it very complicated for people to follow.
Okay, this will tap out the Special Initiatives Reserve, though. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it leaves about, I think, less than 20,000 in the Special Initiatives Reserve, assuming the balance will show higher in statements you see, because you also have some money in that reserve for issues for the unhoused that you allocated from surplus, but we assume you want to keep that money for how you dedicated it, and we keep it there until you tell us which initiative you would like to use it for.
Okay. And then when is the next round of Community Works funds? Is that a program that's going to continue? Are we going to see more funds coming in from that?
But through the chair to Councillor Menley, so we did sign a 10-year agreement last year, and we have used the Community Works funds, as you will see in our project presentation. We have made good use of the Community Works funds in the 5-year draft project plan that we're going to be bringing forward on Friday.
So they're tapped out?
It is very low in a couple of the years, so there's not a lot of flexibility in the first few years of the draft project plan to add additional projects without you pushing out another project that is currently funded from it.
Okay. And then when it comes to land purchases, the Special Initiatives and Strategic Infrastructure are 2 of the reserves we can actually tap from for land purchases. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Manley, correct. Those are both city reserves. One is a statutory reserve, which is a city bylaw that governs it, and the other one is an operating reserve, and both of them neither has a restriction about land purchases.
But Community Works funds and some of the other grants we get aren't eligible for land purchases.
Through the chair to Councillor Manley, correct. Under the Community Works agreement, we cannot fund land purchases from that reserve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. Regarding the community space, again, inferring no preference here, I'm curious to hear from the delegations. It adds about $800,000 to the budget. If I could hear from staff, some of the programming that we would anticipate and some parallel community spaces that I could, you know, say, okay, it's going to be like Kinhut or it's going to be like Oliver Woods. How is it being programmed, and how often do we have available bookings, or is it just jam-packed?
Okay, through the chair, before I turn over to Ms. Osborne, one thing I will note is that we do use the Spark and the existing limited facilities to provide our summer programs in partnership with one or more of the clubs. So while Ms. Osborne will speak to comparable spaces, I just want to point out the existing park facilities are used that way. So over to you, Ms. Osborne.
Ms. Osborne, welcome, please.
Good morning, and through the chair to Councillor Hemmons. Community activity space is in extreme demand in our community right now, in particular for individual rentals for things such as birthday parties, family gatherings, any type of family event that you might want a space to rent outside of your home. Currently, with the loss of the Departure Bay Activity Centre, we don't have that type of space available to provide to members of our community, and so the demand is quite large. We have filled the Centennial Building to capacity, and the Kinhut and the Rotary Activity Centre, our other two activity centres, are also filled on any given time, on any day of the week, for a variety of different types of programs, children's programs, fitness programs, yoga, Pilates, boot camps, a number of different age groups. So in short, any community space that we are able to secure for our community will be used and used in a very positive way.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Follow-up question, if I may. I'm assuming the parking accommodates if those models that include a community space, there is deemed to be enough parking to bring in things like yoga classes and birthday parties. Is that accurate?
Okay, through the chair, that's something we would have to assess in terms of the uses. The one thing I did want to point out is this park is in the secondary urban centre in our city plan, and so it is also an important transit hub that the RDN is looking at improving behind the Country Club Mall. And what we're seeing is with the density that council's approved in the Long Lake area, the usage of that park and those amenities and trails has gone up. And so we anticipate providing facilities and amenities where people don't always need to use a vehicle to access. So it's just a reality as we become more urbanized that we have demands and we are bringing things where people don't always have to drive to a bigger recreation facility to have their recreation needs. And that's quite important when we look at high school, elementary schools, and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the report.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, and then Councillor Manley again.
Thank you, Your Worship. I look forward to hearing from the delegations, and I just wanted to clarify because I'm hearing that on one hand we're not going to be making a very important decision today, but on the other hand staff needs direction. Are we today in a position that we need to choose option A, B, C, D, etc., or what sort of decision, if any, do we have to make today? Are you looking for us to make, Ms. Bhopal, through you to Ms. Bhopal Singh?
Through your worship to Councillor Thorpe, of course, Council has every ability to go with one of the options that we provided in the report. In order to advance this, we are looking for some direction as to what a financial commitment and a space commitment might look like. But really, that is council willing, and this is a finance and audit committee, so you would be making a recommendation to council, and council, which is also yourselves, would be making the actual decision. We felt it was important to give you those choices, allow for you to hear some delegations, and then we will follow your direction.
All right, thank you. Yes, I do understand that we're making a decision about a recommendation. Appreciate the semantics. If I may, Your Worship, through you, I do have some questions. I'll try to keep them brief. I appreciate the chart that we see, Ms. Bhopal saying that's very useful. But I'd like to refer back to the first diagram that you showed, if I may, which is sort of the balloon shapes of the overall site. Yes. Because if I'm correct, all of the options that we are looking at.
Okay, through the chair, if you might give me a second to get us back to
There,
that.
that one.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah.
If I'm correct, all of the options relate to this basic schematic of land use. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes.
All right, thank you. So I guess when I look at this, I immediately think of what I consider a great success out at Westwood Lake and the revisioning of that space. And I would hope that we could do something on a smaller scale, but equally impressive on this site. So when I look at this, this diagram, I note, first of all, that the building site is the same in all of our options. It has been shifted to where we were originally planning to put it. And from that building site, there is water access for the water users. And I don't want to be premature here because I know we'll hear from them, but are the club members and the water users happy with that access venue?
Through the chair, our understanding through confirmation of this high-level site map is yes, that this is workable.
Okay, thank you. Second, I'm really interested in the expanded beach notation and conjunction with that, the playground notation. Now, the playground area is the area that caused all the controversy when we had our original plan, which I was very happy to proceed with, except maybe for the cost. When it says playground, can you explain to me, do we have some sort of idea of what type of playground or what improvements would be made to that area? Or are we just leaving it the way it is, which to me is a barren wasteland with trees?
Okay, through the chair to Councillor Thorpe, I actually was wandering through the park yesterday. There is playground equipment there. I would say that at this point, we would keep this high level till we engaged with the neighborhood and others to find out their preferences, because there's quite a few structures actually there for children and youth to play on, and it's integrated in with the tree canopy. So any consideration going forward of improving that playground would consider a few things: accessibility, the natural environment, the demographics and the input of the neighborhood, families, etc. The expanded beach would be something that we would have to consider carefully, because that requires all kinds of different permits. But at Westwood, we did do that too, and that expanded the usability of the beach for a wider number of people. So through your worship, Councillor Thorpe, have I answered your question?
Well, I'm not sure, and perhaps my question wasn't worded clearly. I guess my point was that I would be very supportive, I think, of an improved playground area with different structures in there and more options and more accessibility and so on. I just don't see it as being a very family-friendly playground area at present. So if it involves improvements, great. I'd like to come back to a comment that I think it was Councillor Hemmons made related to car circulation and parking. And I rarely disagree with Ms. Bhopal Singh, but I think I will slightly, because I'm still convinced that most people will be wanting to drive to this facility, as most people are wanting to drive to Westwood Lake. And although we have increased parking at Westwood, we still get complaints there's not enough. So you can try to convince people to take other options, but the reality is that most don't. So my question is, that car circulation and parking area, how would that in general compare in size to what is there currently for the public?
Through the chair, there'd be a modest increase, but not a huge one. And with that, I might turn over to Ms. Davis to see if she's got any comments on that.
Ms. Davis, perform the miracle of Westwood Lake and Neck Point for us.
Good morning, Your Worship. Good morning, everyone. And through the chair, to answer that question, I don't believe that there's been a great deal of design work undertaken at this stage onto that, but hearing those comments and comments from the community as well, that's something we'd absolutely take on board as we move further through the design.
Thank you. I recognize this is very preliminary, but I still think there are issues that we need to keep in our mind. And I guess my last comment, if I may, Your Worship, you've been very tolerant, is that personally I feel that the community space is a priority for me. So I look forward to hearing other comments and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley, before I go to you, I see Councillor Armstrong's got her hand up, and you've spoken once, so we'll let Councillor Armstrong go first. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I guess one of my concerns is I feel this is kind of being rushed right now, and I do know we're in budget, but the concern I have is I want to know what the tax implications are. People are hurting, and to me, this is a nice to have, a little bit above a nice to have. So I'm really struggling with doing this right now till we know where we're at with the budget. And I do have to leave. That's why I'm just making these comments now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, I had just had a question about the different drawings. I think in option A, there was a large building operations space, and I understand like probably in the other options it's machine rooms. Is this, in option A, was that a staff office or something, or why the difference in space allocation?
Through the chair to Councillor Manley, I'm going to ask Ms. Davis to help with this one, or perhaps Mr. Van Ziel. What we looked at is in any of the options, that operational space can be condensed. So some of it was things like janitorial space and storage space for our operations, not the public or the clubs. So I'm wondering if somebody who had more experience with option A could speak to that. Thank you.
Through the chair. These are very preliminary designs. The thinking behind the specifics on design A, we'd have to go back and peel back the layers. But in each of these designs, what will come out will be what's best suited for the budget that we have to hand and the operating of the building. So I don't think we're vested in any specific area for any specific part of the building yet.
Okay. Yeah, I just noted that option A, it's about double the size of the other options. And just to reiterate what Councillor Thorpe said, I think that there was a wonderful job done at Westwood, beautiful beach siting, and I know when I walked down through Bowen Park, the amphitheater there is very well used space. It's great for the concerts in the parks program. People get married there, and I'm wondering if there's any consideration for that kind of mini amphitheater style of facility at Loudon Park, because I think these kind of facilities are great to have spread out in different parts of the community, and there's a lot of demand for them. So.
Through the chair, what I will say is the high-level uses and what you see, and I'll refer back to the Loudon Park Improvement Plan that was initially adopted by Council in 2007 and then revised in 2010. The community feedback is what informs that. Now, having read it and not remembering all the details, I'm going to turn to Ms. Davis and see. I don't believe seeing an amphitheater expressed by the community in that, and Ms. Davis is nodding.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and through the chair, the other piece is I will remind people this is a very modest and small park. Well, it's not a tiny park, but it's not as big as Westwood and Maffeo Sutton. And so, however, there's opportunities to improve the gathering spaces. It may not be as broad or big in use as what you've seen in the other parks, but as we combine the neighborhood's other express uses over the last 25 years around playground, picnic, outdoor gathering space, there may be the ability to integrate gathering space in a format that looks like something that supports concerts. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I think like the Westwood, just the way it's kind of laid out and the seating, et cetera, it's just, it's a natural transition for different uses. And, so I think those kind of considerations are important, that who knows what it'll be, what people will want to be doing in the park in future years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Just through you, before we get to the delegations today, I just wanted to ask, was there a proactive request to the folks who are sharing the delegations today that they come and share? And was it communicated to the groups that were consulted with during the preliminary engagement phase that they could come as a delegation at this meeting?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Eastmere, first of all, I just want to apologize. We were trying so hard to get this report done, and at each stage we did let the community, the different groups who came out, the list that came out on October 1st on the focused engagement, know that the intention was to come to council and encourage them to come as delegations. We were initially hoping for November 3rd, which was a wickedly short turnaround time, and ended up making this meeting. And I think I'll turn over to Ms. Davis, because I knew she was letting the different groups know that we were going to be publishing on an addendum. I think people even registered prior to that, so.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we did communicate with the user groups who we've engaged with so far to let them know the date of the meeting and how they may appear as a delegation. And then I was in touch with them at the last moment yesterday when the addendum was published as well.
Okay, thank you. I think I heard a little bit of a different thing from some folks, but it's hard, and I know it has been rushed, and I think yeah, that's really my sense of even speaking about this report today. Council did get a little bit of an advanced look at the report, but it wasn't published publicly until yesterday at about 2:15 p.m. So if any members of the public or those groups had seen it come forward at that point and wanted to offer comments, they wouldn't have had time to sign up as a delegation at that time. So I just really acknowledge that it has been rushed. I see the amount of work that's been done by staff to get it to us at this point, but from my end, it just feels like we're trying to get a really quick answer on it, and we might need to take more time to really consider the budget implications of this. While it's nice to be able to pluck one of those numbers, it's the time constraint is making it challenging. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions for staff, we'll hear from the delegations now. Pardon me, Mr. Lindsay. Shouldn't ignore the CAO, should I?
Thank you, Your Worship. Earlier I'd raised my hand. I just wanted to comment about the questions, I think, that came from Councillor Hemmons about the demand on community space. And I think Director Osborne correctly pointed out we have the spaces we have are under high demand, but I just wanted to add to that, not only have we lost Departure Bay Activity Centre, the Kin Hut is an older building. It's under significant amount of use. You can go down there any weekend, you see it always being used by members of the community. But that building is getting older. It's getting to the point where we need to decide whether we're going to put more money into it. And it is on a piece of land that's important and sensitive to the nation, to this Nanaimo First Nation. So going forward, I don't think we can necessarily count on Kin Hut always being there. So I think when we look at other projects, whether it's this or other places, I think it's safe to say there'll be continued demand for public space across the community. The second thing, just on the lateness of the report, that's on me as the CAO, not the staff. They had the report ready. It was just with myself. I did want to make sure council had some opportunity ahead of the weekend, but I certainly apologize for having it out yesterday. That's completely on me. Thank you.
Much appreciate your comments, and just as a reminder, unless I'm mistaken, the Kin Hut is on Ministry of Transportation lands.
That is correct, Your Worship. The city has a lease at present of those lands, and the community has the benefit of enjoying those properties for many years now. But it is provincial crown land. That's correct.
Thank you. All right, Isaac Morgan. Mr. Morgan, good morning. You'll have 5 minutes. When there's a minute left, I'll let you know. And obviously, council may have questions. Thank you and welcome. If you can just introduce yourself for the record. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. My name is Isaac Morgan, and I'm here representing the Nanaimo Rowing Club today. So, good morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I see, first of all, if I could have the next slide. Today we have this project, I think, as close as it's ever been to realization, and I think the project really aligns with a lot of the city's goals. If you look at the official community plan and the action plan and all of these other documents that are listed here, this is an excellent opportunity for the city to develop something of lasting value, and I think something that touches a lot of the citizens in the city and not just the user groups in the park. So I'll get into all of those factors. I wanted to thank all of the staff who've been involved, and they've been excellent to to work with and in terms of sharing information. So that's been very positive. I think there's a lot of momentum as the 2 lots have been purchased beside the park, and that opens up an opportunity to move the boathouse structure out of conflict with the trees. So in every option, the trees are going to be saved, which is excellent. A number of comments, have come up in the discussion already. I'd like to address them as I go through. One of them, I think, is, Nanaimo does continue to grow, and I think we need to look at opportunities to create new community spaces. There's a lot of density going in around the transit hub, around North Nanaimo Town Center, a lot of new residents in the city, and a boathouse / small community center is a great amenity. And I think, just thinking about the rowing club and the canoe and kayak club as clubs, yes, we're clubs, but we're also service providers to the citizens of Nanaimo. So out of this meeting, any one of us can sign up and join in the activities. So just like, somebody wouldn't go to the swimming pool without swimming lessons, typically they don't, go race a kayak without kayaking lessons. So we provide that service, and we provide it to some very young groups, particularly on the canoe and kayak side, starting around 8 years old. The rowing programs are more focused on teenagers and young adults, but we also have rowers into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. This location is ideal. It's very close to Wellington High School, and we have a number of athletes who take part in the morning and then walk to class, or go to school and then walk to the activities after school. So it's an excellent enabler of community. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So there's an example of rowing on the lake, and just what a beautiful amenity the water is, and kind of like Westwood Lake, it's a draw. I mean, if we think of it as almost like a natural swimming pool. So it is a very popular location, especially in the summer, with swimming, but we're hoping to get many more people into sort of human-powered water sports activities. Again, we're service providers, and so the training we provide in flat water sports is done at a very low cost, and in many cases it's comparable to what, say, a swim pass might cost a family. So it's not, to counter the perception, it's not an elite activity. We have many families involved, and we do some outreach to make sure that income's not a barrier. Could I have the next slide?
1 minute. 1 minute.
So here's just a snapshot of our activities. Kirsten Mort will be speaking later on about the VIU rowing team that we're looking, it's a club status now, we're looking to grow that. So again, about community building, these are all sort of OCP goals. Could I have the next slide, please? I'm gonna move through these rather quickly because I want to get to the actual building. Kate Rutherford will be speaking after me and speaking to the many connections our clubs have to other facets of the community. Next slide, please. Regattas and events can draw out-of-town visitors. A new community facility would definitely support this. And again, we need to keep adding facilities as the city grows and as older facilities deteriorate. So that next slide. So this slide really is just a placeholder, and I'd like to speak kind of in detail here. Could I have a time check, Your Honor?
If you could wrap up, you're at your 5.
Pardon me?
If you could wrap up, you're at your 5. I'll indulge you for a few more seconds.
I do have some detailed comments I'd like to make respecting the choices that are laid out.
Then I'll guarantee I'll ask you some questions about your detailed comments. How's that? Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Manley?
Can you explain some of the detailed comments?
Trying to steal my thunder, Councillor Manley? I'm shocked.
Thank you. I took a little longer with the preamble than I intended, obviously. So my detailed comments, I'll be brief here. Just as it's been summarized, the council would be deciding on an option today. There's a range of options presented, 5 options specifically. In our discussions with rowing and canoe and kayak, the option we prefer is option C1. Another option that would be viable for us to continue with would be option A. We could work with either of those options. C1 is our preferred option. And there's several reasons. So all of the options have consistent site development costs, consistent boat storage areas. The escalation costs are consistent, so the longer sort of a decision takes, the more they're all going to cost. Community space is important to us, so we're really focused on the options that have that space in addition to club space. And I would really encourage you to sort of think of club space as community space. Any of us can avail ourselves of the activities going on in those spaces. So it's really, you know, it's programming like at a hockey arena or at a baseball stadium or something. You would have a club specialized in those sports providing support in those areas, and that's what we do for Long Lake. So it's an enabling of community access to the lake. So while we're extremely grateful to city staff for developing all the options, we would like to see the options narrowed so that resources are focused on just one option after today. As I said, we don't really, we're not as in support of the options that exclude community space, so that it would exclude option B and option C2. Option B also has a very small area of club space. We do not wholeheartedly support option D just because of the list of regulatory and operational and structural risks that have been listed there. So again, option C1 is our preferred option. And we would be seeking to re-engage with city staff and just define that option and make sure that it was the best possible building coming out of the next stage of design. And really, just in a nutshell, very briefly, I mean, in our view, boat bays on the lower floor with a finished upper floor is a very economical style of building. It's a very proven style of boathouse building. And we think there's some cost savings there and also some space savings in terms of stacking and design, freeing up more park space for the general public to use. So I think I'll wrap up given that I've gone far over time, but I appreciate your time and attention today.
We do have some other questions.
I do have other questions before the previous one that I trumped you on, sorry. Have you had a walkthrough of the house that that is being considered in option D? Had a view of it?
Councillor Manley, no, I have not, but I have read the reports provided by city staff in terms of upgrading to code and converting from a house to a publicly used structure, and there's risks involved there. Also, the long-term maintenance and operation costs of having several or at least a converted house as opposed to a purpose-built building that might be sided with, say, steel siding for the weather. Just the long-term implications of that.
Okay, I was curious about maybe short-term implications of utilizing that space in the medium term. I'm going to let some other folks ask some questions and I'll come back. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. It's not even clear to me, are any of the options currently two-story options?
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Eastmere, that's yet to be determined. One thing you'll see in the report is we do mention that two-story comes with some added costs. So it depends on council's priorities, but 2 stories adds cost because you need things like elevators, so it adds cost not only in the building, but the long-term operation of the building. So anything's possible. And so we would have to cost that out because of all these higher level options, what 1 versus 2 stories would look like. Thank you.
And I feel like I recall from earlier conversations with the boathouse, there was a desire to be able to store the boats vertically, and that would be like above height of a regular single-story building?
Councillor Eastman, through the chair, no, that's a misunderstanding. If you look at the graphic here, it's the oars that are quite long, so potentially, usually we hang those on the wall. The footprint of the boat bays is virtually identical across all of the designs, so that's a consistent element. Really, that's not the piece that you're choosing between. The piece that you're choosing between is how much club space, which I would call a form of community space because we're providing a service to the community, and then how much bookable community room goes along with that. So I think those are the primary distinctions, and I think right now it's how much budget and how much space is what you're selecting, and the format of the building comes later. I'm simply making a comment that, you know, 2-story facilities are a tried and true sort of basic, you know, design, and it can be as simple as a steel frame building spec'd from a local supplier and fitted out to the standard that you choose. So it's everything from there and up, so it does not need to be overly complicated.
Okay, thank you. And then just quickly, when you say that you'd be offering a service to the community, what would be the community cost in order to be a member of the club to be able to access that space? And then second to that, is the club offering to partner with the city on fundraising for any amount of this building?
Yes, to answer both of your questions. So my individual cost of being a member is about $60 a month. I'll let our next speaker address that point maybe in more detail. And to your second point, if you could just recap.
Helping to fundraise to
yes. At this stage, I believe we're contributing $100,000, but that could be, you know, like with anything, that we could look into that again. But certainly, we're part of the fundraising effort at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manley.
Thank you.
Keeping time in mind.
Yes, sir. I'm curious about how you might feel about the having the weight room be more of a public facility that would be booked by club members rather than just strictly a club amenity.
Well, just to react to your question, I'm sure that we could discuss it. Really, everybody's galvanized behind the idea of a boathouse being realized after a 25-year process. I think we're very close again, but I think discussions like that are flexible. But really, that off-the-water indoor training space in our climate is really critical for maintaining programs through November to February, and getting into that early season racing, and also supporting programs like high school rowing program across the high schools in Nanaimo, where they could compete against each other, as is done in Victoria, and the VIU program to get, you know, as a draw for this university to compete with UVic and UBC, so, you know, and SFU, which all have programs. So I think, yeah.
Okay, and I'm just curious about the funding for the weight equipment, whether that would be expected to be the city or whether it would be the club, or how that would work.
We already possess quite a number of rowing machines and free weights. I don't think that's a significant cost, but again, potentially that could be something the clubs are fundraising for, to round that out. But I think the quality of that space, I didn't touch on that, but the quality of the community space and the club space is important between the designs. So if it, you know, in a stacked format, the community room would be on the second story with an excellent water view, the club spaces as well. So you could have a yoga session in those rooms with the windows open, and the lake is a beautiful amenity, as opposed to maybe there's, some of the designs, for instance, option A has those training rooms located in the middle of the building with no windows. So thinking about the quality of the space, also the quantity of the space is important.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, through the chair, if I might address Councillor Manley's question to the speaker. One of the considerations, and I know we're getting a little bit into details here, is that some of these things can be fleshed out. However, one thing I will point out is a variety of clubs across the city use a combination of their space, our space. We help with maintenance, co-management agreements. And what they do is they provide services that we don't have the capacity to. If we had a public gym, we would have to staff it, and we would have to have security, and we would have to have a range of features that would be a bit different than if a volunteer group were to manage it. And so that would be a consideration for us in the pricing, the costing of the operations of the program. However, if that's something council wanted to see and fund, obviously we would take your direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next delegation is Kate Rutherford. Ms. Rutherford, welcome. I think you know the drill. 5 minutes. When there's a minute left, I'll let you know. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you.
And
Good
pull
morning.
the mic down too. Where you are so we can all hear you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Kate Rutherford. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the Flatwater Society and the Rowing and Canoe Kayak Clubs. I also want to add my thanks to the city staff on all the hard work on acquiring the additional properties and the absolutely tremendous amount of work that went into preparing the summary of options that we're seeing today, and for keeping us updated as the process continued. We look forward to Council's selection of a preferred option. So I realize that Mayor and Council are pretty familiar with our operations of the two clubs. We've had a number of these presentations. This is just a snapshot of our 2024 and 2025 community partners. We've had a positive presence in the park for more than 35 years. We're active year-round and interact with many groups and organizations to provide inclusive recreational opportunities. In 2025, our clubs interacted with over 2,000 participants. We host everything from free introductions to our sports to year-round training opportunities. We have summer camps, community paddling and rowing, winter training open to the public. We host regattas and regional training camps, and in addition, participate in community events such as the Silly Boat Regatta and the Canada Day events at Swilana. Clubs are vibrant, growing, and positioning to increase what we can offer to Nanaimo. Next slides are just placeholders. A big part of our continued growth will be dependent on the redevelopment of Loudon Park, and we are anxious to participate in making this a reality. There was a mention of fundraising. We're committed to, at this point, through an MOU to $100,000, but once something is decided upon, there's options for grant applications and increased fundraising. So a couple of examples of how the facility might improve our operations and the community is improve building, trail, and dock accessibility. This opens us up to more options, people with spinal injuries, para, the Canucks autism participants, and there'd also be improved space for fitness classes. Rentable community space would benefit sport tourism. We'd be able to hold multi-day regattas and things that don't work well now with just a sort of an ATCO trailer and some tents. Today, a decision is hopefully going to be made on the building portion of the park. So our input is, Isaac alluded to this, the acquisition of the additional properties and the removal of the building site from the original park makes all 5 options work in terms of boat storage. However, we see that the accessible indoor community space is essential for increasing year-round access to the park, with people attending the facility for meetings, classes, and other events. This in turn would make the park safer, more secure, and more active. Community space, as I mentioned, would also enhance sports tourism, not just our regattas, but events such as fun runs or mini triathlons. 3 of the options do not really tick all the boxes. The desire to see the year-round accessible community space leads us to score options B and C2 as less suitable. Option D has community space, but it also has the element of the unknown that has been mentioned. So whether the layout of having divided up rooms and low ceilings would be amenable to becoming a workout fitness space, in addition to any kind of hidden things in an older building. Another set of pretty pictures. Based on the provision of accessible community space in addition to boat storage and club space, we feel option C1 would best meet the needs of the community and
One minute.
It also has the flexibility of exploring the before-mentioned 2-story option. Option A would also meet both sets of needs, but does have a larger footprint and cost. In conclusion, we are urging you to approve a building option for this much-needed improvement project. Making Loudon Park a safe, welcoming, and vibrant gathering place is worth the investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the delegation? And sorry, if Councillor Eastmere, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, would the club potentially be working on an agreement with the city to pay rent for using the space in this building?
We haven't had any discussions on that particular point.
Okay. And when you said that there's the potential for grant opportunities, do you have a sense of like what kind of grants are you talking about?
There's a lot of grants have restrictions, of course. Things like community gaming grants, there's capital grants that come out. They do have limitations on what the total cost of a project could be. It used to be like $2.5 million, which we would be far exceeding, but that would be, you could portion out the project so that grants would be for the interior fittings of the buildings and that type of thing. There's also the, like the Vancouver Community Grant, Nanaimo Grant, Victoria Foundation, the various foundation grants.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thorpe extends his apologies, but on behalf of council, he's greeting a group of visitors to our community at the curling rink. Just to come back to it, I'm sorry, and when I interrupted you by indicating you had a minute left. So your preferred option of the various options?
Is C1.
C1, which is not A. Thank you. Not seeing any further questions, much appreciated. The next delegation is Kirsten Mort. Ms. Mort, good morning, welcome. If you can introduce yourself for the record, 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when there's a minute left. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Krogh. My name's Kirsten Mort. I'm part of the Nanaimo Rowing Club, the Friends of Loudon Park, and I don't know, a 31-year-old advocating for a Vancouver Island University rowing team. Go team. Today I'm here to talk about the revival of the VIU Rowing Club. It's brand new this year, again. We started their competitive season at Head of the Gorge in Victoria. Our women's double came 5th in an expansive field. They are currently training hard alongside the Nanaimo Rowing Club at Loudon Park for the upcoming Kraken Indoor Rowing Championships in February. University rowing is an important tradition at many institutions. In addition to high performance programs, they also have novice programs. Anyone at the university can try out for the rowing team with no previous rowing experience. This is perfect for students looking for a new competitive endeavor or wanting to stay fit and make friends. At the novice level, the playing field is equal, and everyone is in their first year at the sport, no matter where they are in Canada. This is where VIU can have immediate success. Nanaimo is one of the few places in Canada where we can row on the water year-round. During the winter, students can train on the water, which is much more fun than training inside, and it also gives the school a competitive advantage compared to the eastern provinces that have frozen water. Sometimes you do need the indoor space though. When it's today it's 2 degrees, you don't feel like erging on a floor that's like that next to some rat droppings, and you're carpooling to the lake. Sorry, Richard, I didn't come to practice this morning. Competing as a university team brings recognition from across the country. VIU already attracts top soccer, basketball, and volleyball athletes that win us national championships. The right facility will give VIU rowing the ability to do the same. Future students will see our name in the results, and they want to be a part of our program. Many Canadian collegiate rowing teams have at least 20 people, and some of the top schools have upwards of 60 members. The boathouse facility and community gathering space can give the university team a space to really flourish. They can train and compete as a club and host other universities as the third space. Rowers from all of Canada will visit, especially in the winter while their home clubs are frozen. We did that as the University of Calgary. We went to the University of Victoria, had a blast, and now I live on Vancouver Island. We really want to make Nanaimo a destination. Great efforts have been made to engage the community and gather opinions from diverse groups. Option C1 is the most reflective of the community input. Option A has already been voted against. However, it does seem the closest to being a reality. A real fist pump to the city for the recent fix-up of the current paddling dock and replacement of the playground railroad ties in the gravel. These small improvements really help make the park less desolate. And we really appreciate all the work that you've done to help, alleviate this project, make it actually happen. We're looking forward to 2028 or hopefully sooner. And yeah, we are trying to partner with VIU to get some fitness classes, university or anybody, boot camp in January, February. So looking forward to that, trying to make it affordable. The rental space is $50 an hour. Is it an hour? $50 for the room for us, so costs are difficult. That when we don't have the facility to be able to run the classes ourselves, we have to outsource. But we're doing our best. We're trying to make it work, expand rowing, get everyone active. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for the delegation? Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, not a question. I just want to say I see your name out there quite a bit. I'm just so thrilled with your advocacy, and just want to say thank you so much for being here. I know you missed it this morning, but you know what? It was worth it. Thank you.
Woo. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. Similarly, not a question, but gratitude to you. My university roommate was a rower at Dalhousie, and she was in law school, and I think she put as many hours on the water as she did in law school, so it's deep commitment. Appreciate what you do. For Ms. Osborne, what would be the protocol if VIU identifies this as a training facility? Would there be rent possibilities? Like, what does that look like?
Through the chair to Councillor Hemmons, we have a number of different agreements in place with the VIU sporting opportunities. For example, hockey. The VIU Mariners play out of the Nanaimo Ice Centre, and they're a club group at the moment. So depending on what the status is and what the requirements are, we would meet with them and work through those details.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. No further questions to the delegation. Ms. Moore, thank you very much for the presentation this morning. Ms. Gurry, I'm looking at the time. I'm considering that there's only 5 members of council present because it appears we've lost Councillor Armstrong, and I don't know how council feels. And like Councillor Eastmere, I mean, this is a big ticket item, and it's a very important decision, and it's been the subject of much controversy and discussion. So I'm going to suggest that we adjourn to further discussion on this matter to the next Finance and Audit Committee meeting, if that isn't too objectionable to people, so that we can at least do a couple more of the smaller items here this morning. Mr. Lindsay, any comments, please?
Not a comment, just clarification, Your Worship. Our next normal meeting, of course, is until next month, but we do have the budget meetings that are starting on Friday, so just clarifying, the intent would be to move this discussion to Friday.
I would think that wouldn't be unreasonable. I'm not aware of any absences from council on Friday at this juncture. Ms. Gurry?
I'm not aware of any either, Your Worship.
It just strikes me, I'm looking around the table, looking for comment, and I'm not seeing any great objections. Councillor Eastmere?
I think that I was thinking of moving that we defer this to a future GPC meeting, because I really feel like it's important to have time to hear fully from the delegations. It really felt rushed today, and I don't think this is a conversation that we should be rushing. I think Friday is a pretty tight turnaround time as well.
What about the 28th?
What about the 28th?
That's Finance and Audit. Pardon me. Next, yeah. When's the next special Finance and Audit Committee meeting? Is the 5th, December. I have nothing in my calendar in the afternoon, beyond noon. We're scheduled to sit from 9 till noon.
So we could certainly bring it forward on the 28th, Your Worship, if that's the preference.
I think the question was about.
Sorry, I'm not suggesting that the 28th, because that's necessarily, I mean, I'm with Councillor Eastmere if we want to take a little bit more time. Ms. Fulla.
Through the chair. So this Friday, we're doing the budget over and the key initiatives. On the 28th, we're going to hear from external organizations, and you're going to preview your decision slides. So the 28th might be a good time to discuss this. And then we come back on December 3rd, and that's where you're going to make decision. You're going to deliberate on those decision points and make changes to the draft budget before we bring the provisional budget forward. So both November 28th and December 3rd would be days where it would fit nicely in with the discussions that we're having.
Council? Councillor Manley, then Councillor Perino.
Thank you. Either of those dates work for me. I agree with Councillor Eastmere. It'd be nice to hear from other people. You know, we had a very short notice for this, and some people had a heads up, and other people apparently did not. And so I'd just like to be able to hear from more of the community. And so either of those dates, December 3rd or the 28th, rather than this Friday. Thank you.
I do note the December 28th meeting is scheduled from 9 till 4. Lots of time, more time. All right. Council, unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to suggest we defer this to the 28th. Seconded. Councillor Hemmons, all in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone who's come this morning on this issue. I appreciate you may have been looking forward to a decision, but this is no small matter and deserves the attention that Council needs to give it. The next item is what would
Your Worship, we just need to pause for a moment because Councillor Manley just, I think, excused himself, and we don't have quorum.
Yes, I didn't look over to my right. Stand up for a minute. I'm speaking at a funeral at 1. Well, let's do Dave. We have Councillor Manley. Thank you. We need you. Quorum. All right, the next, not that we don't need you all the time, of course, but even more importantly this morning. The next item is the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island funding request. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you. So the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island has requested a grant of $183,000 to cover the building permit and DCC costs associated with their new Home Away from Home project in Nanaimo. So building permit fees totaled $54,030.75, and the DCC fees totaled $128,163.15. And those, both of those fees totaled $182,193.90. I will point out that the DCCs are split between city and the RDN. So if the city portion of that 182 is $149,901.22. The remaining $32,000 are RDN costs or fees. So currently there are no grant budgets in place to fund this request. However, if council wished to grant the funds, staff would recommend that funding the $149,900, as that is the city portion of fees. The funding options available are 2026 property taxation, and to fund that 149,900 is approximately 8.09% tax increase. You could fund it from the 2025 surplus, or you could fund it from the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve. So staff are here to answer any questions you have on this report.
Thank you very much. Any questions right now? Councillor Eastmere, and then Councillor Hemmons, and then we'll hear from the delegation.
Do we have a precedent for this in terms of other organizations that we've done something similar for as far as waiving these kind of fees?
Through your worship, to Councillor Eastmere, not like recently we've had a couple of applications, but we haven't provided any formal payment to them.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, one other question. Do we know how much the 2025 surplus is yet?
We are working on our projection. Ms. Fuller, do you remember I have the notes somewhere. We do, based on our Q2 surplus projection, we do anticipate having enough money to cover this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons and Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm curious, did staff investigate whether Victoria or Campbell River, the other municipalities that these facilities exist in, did they contribute any funding?
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmons, I don't know about Victoria, but I do know that Campbell River did provide a grant that covered some of their fees. I think it was about $65,000.
Okay, thank you. I'll just indicate my support for this. I'm guessing that the SIR is going to be fully subscribed. The surplus seems the most reasonable, but we're kind of banking on money that we don't know we have yet. So taxation seems possibly the most responsible, but I think surplus is probably the way to go.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually have a question through you to Ms. Mercer. So under the Local Government Act, municipalities may pass a bylaw to waive or reduce DCCs in support of development, resulting in the creation of, and it goes on. I just wondered, would this be applicable?
Through your worship to Councillor Perino, this would not qualify under that.
It would not, eh? Okay. So we can't give any reduction on permits. We cannot give any reduction on DCCs. Any other charges that we have that I've missed? No, just the development cost charge. No, those are the DCCs. So that's it. That's it. Other than, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley, question?
Yeah, thank you. We have had some requests in the past. I think Loaves and Fishes made a request for their warehouse. Is that correct? Do we know how much that was for?
Your Worship, and certainly have had different requests that have come in front of council and different support that's been provided in different ways. So in Loaves and Fishes context, of course, council remember that that's actually land that was purchased by the city. At the time we purchased the land, the city also set aside, I believe it was about $100,000 towards works and services on the side road. So there was land and some contribution to works and services. There was some discussion at one point about a grant in lieu of the building permit, but the city did not provide anything beyond the land and the works and services. So
okay.
That was it for that project.
And then we've had some other requests, but they're not formal requests yet. I think the project on 8th Avenue, the Salvation Army in Bolinas was.
Yeah, on that specific project on 8th, there was an application for a subdivision, is what council's dealt with most recently. That was last year, I believe. Council supported a reduction or a delay in works and services from the subdivision stage until building permit, which allowed for the subdivision to proceed with some commitments that the parcel where the housing was going to be built would actually have some interim connection out to Bruce Avenue. But that project has not advanced, and there's been no subsequent requests on building permits. Going back to Councillor Perino's question, that project, if it proceeded and met the definition of affordable housing, it would be eligible for a 50% reduction in DCCs. But the details have not yet come forward for that project.
Okay. And any other projects, recent projects that we've had requests for like this? Your
Worship, I'm struggling with thinking of any that have come forward for a waiver of DCCs and building permits. I think, there's a number of projects that would probably be interested, and whether that's all the building permits at the hospital or the school district or VIU, all would probably be interested in something like this, but nothing that I can think of in recent memory. There's been, when you think about contributions, and going back to the earlier discussion today about, you know, funds in your housing legacy reserve, you've contributed money to lease rates, to works and services, but those are all around kind of BC housing collaborations and supportive housing.
Okay, and so the Local Government Act that Councillor Perino was referencing, that's really for supportive and affordable housing, the projects?
The Local Government Act has some very, around development cost charges specifically. It has some things where you cannot charge DCCs for very small units, for places of worship, and then it has the ability for local governments to enter into bylaws on very limited things to reduce DCCs, and it's primarily around affordable housing. So you have a bylaw that's allowed for that, and the rate is 50%. So there are projects I can think of, probably going back 5 years or more, where the council said, okay, you get a 50% reduction, and we will pay the other 50%, but we will cover it. It won't be, we can't waive it. The city will pay for it somehow. And those were again on affordable housing projects.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Not seeing any further questions for staff right now. The delegation, Dave Hammond, Don Hubbard, not exactly unknown faces in the community, are here in front of council. Welcome, gentlemen. Introduce yourselves for the record. If you know, 5 minutes, 1 minute, I'll give you fair warning.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon. Mayor, Krog, councillors, staff, my name is Dave Hammond. I live at 3712 Glen Oaks Drive here in Nanaimo. Where did Don go? He's there. I'm here with Don on behalf of the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island. We requested financial assistance from the City of Nanaimo to support the building of Jesse's House, our new home away from home, now under construction, yay, at NRGH. A particular thank you to staff for their efforts to present a very thorough report. It's a lot of effort put into it, and we appreciate it. We do understand the reduction in financial support to approximately $149,000, eliminating the RDN portion of the fees. Excuse me. The staff report talks about Jesse's House being a valuable initiative for families needing accommodation while their children are receiving medical treatment. We couldn't have said it better. Almost all of the capital costs will be from funds raised in the community, not from government. The same goes for the annual operating costs. All construction jobs and materials will be sourced locally, as well as all operating jobs and consumables. We think that Council's financial support will send a positive message to the community to support our fundraising goals.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Hubbard. I live on 6330 McRobb Avenue, Nanaimo. And to follow up on Dave's comments, and very thankful for Dave being here today with us. I'm a director with the Children's Foundation, have been for a little over 7 years. And one of the reasons I joined the organization was Janice Place in Victoria. I was involved in that in construction. I was involved with Island Health. And I saw the effect it had on the families that came there. And we recognized two areas of great need. One was Camel River, and one was in Nanaimo, of course. And Camel River became the first one because we could see the other half of Vancouver Island wasn't being served with Janice Place as well as it could be. And through the lens of watching both those operations run, this organization, which is now almost 100 years old, it'll be 100 years old next year, and the way they ran the operations, very frugally with donated funds, and on an average cost of about $150 a night per stay per family. So the average cost for Nanaimo will run anywhere from about $750,000 to just under $900,000 a year, all of which will be spent in Nanaimo either in wages or supplies and services, and provide a much needed service for families to come here. This will be the largest facility on Vancouver Island that we have, 16 units, and I think about the families today that don't have that service that have to come here. Now we have cancer treatment coming to Nanaimo. The need is going to be even more. So I'm hoping it's big enough, really. But we want to thank the staff for all their work on this and council's patience in listening to us. Thank you. And we as Dave said, you know, we've raised 70% of our goal. We started construction. We want to raise the rest, which we will, and during construction time. But also we're ongoing fundraising every year to operate the building. This will really send a huge message to the community about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Any questions for the delegation? Not seeing any.
Sure.
Councillor Manley, sorry.
Thanks. So you're not having any difficulties fundraising for this facility, I take it? It's been going well?
Well, we'd take an extra $3 million if you got it, but
I wish.
It's always a challenge, of course. It's a big number. The community has stood up in a big way so far, and we're optimistic that we'll reach our goal. As we've said, we do think it's important that the city be a leader in this and give the message to community that it's important. Just to answer a question, I forget who asked the question. In the Campbell River and the Victoria homes away from home, municipal support was there for both those projects, financial support.
Okay, thank you. I note that you're confident enough that you've got an excavator digging a hole, and that's great. I was there at the groundbreaking, and it compelled me to donate myself, so I think this is a great project. Thank you.
And just to confirm, did I hear that Campbell River provided something in the range of $65,000?
I know there was several points of funding. I don't have the exact numbers, but it was substantial, yes.
Okay. And they're about a third of our size, or a quarter, I believe, roughly. Yeah. Councillor Perino.
Not a question. I'm ready to present an idea.
All right.
Is that okay?
I'll listen to the idea before we make a motion. Tell me your idea.
No, I'm... well, again, okay, the idea...
Let them sit down?
Sure, they can sit down. Sure.
Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Thank you.
Idea from the perspective of, this is financial hardship, obviously, for young families coming here, and they're coming here at the absolute worst time, and almost always the unexpected, right? You don't expect your child to get sick. And so this is huge, and of course, as Don Hubbard did suggest, even with the Cancer Center opening up, that's a whole other issue. But I can tell you from very real experience, I saw families coming here in their most desperate need. So I would like to make a grant. I'm not sure how to phrase it. I was impressed with what Campbell River had done. And I can tell you, Councillor Manley talked about the fundraising, how it's going. You know, when you're doing a project like this and you have to raise $10 million, failure is not an option. So you keep going until you get the money. But it's important to know that they are asking for a single gift. This will not be a request that I would entertain in the future. They're not looking for operational dollars. This is a one-time gift. I wish we could give it in permits and so forth so that it doesn't have to come out of it. But I would be suggesting an option of $75,000 towards this to show our support.
Sorry, how much?
$75,000.
From where?
So from surplus.
Surplus? There's a seconder, Councillor Hemmons.
And if I could just to finally say, because I know Councillor Hemmons will want to speak to it, this is a message that we support families when they are in their absolute greatest need. And I even saw cases where we were supporting families that they were coming in to be with their young children who were in the final stages of their life. So this is big. So this is a message, definitely from the citizens of Nanaimo, to show our support for this, but this will be a one-time gift, and they are then on their own, and that's the hard part for them. But they will succeed because they have to succeed. It's not an option to fail, and the families need this desperately. So I'll be giving my support to this.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question for staff regarding option number 2, which I think this is just a lower dollar amount. It indicates that we're going to defer a decision but fund the grant from the 2025 general operating surplus in early 2026. So is that accurate, that we could move and vote on this today, but it wouldn't be an immediate, that we would be deferring this until we have a conversation about surplus?
Through Your Worship to you, Councillor Hemmons, yes. So we don't come back with surplus allocation till February or March. And at that time, we would know if we had sufficient. We suspect we will. There are possibly a couple of options with this. You could take the money out of the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve now if you wanted to pay it out now, and then when surplus numbers are known, we could put that money into from surplus and replenish that reserve. Or you could wait until February or March when we provide the surplus allocation numbers.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with either of those options. I just want to note, I really appreciated staff's framing in every single option. We talked about this could set a precedent, and I think that's the comment I tried to make in the previous discussion, is that this is a bit of a precedent that we need to be mindful of. That said, I was with the Board of Loaves and Fishes last night and was reminded that we did provide that land, and that I think that provides a good message that the city does mobilize around urgent issues that benefit the entire community. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidly, I'm prepared to support the full $149,900 that staff are not recommending per se, but that the recommendation is that the city only fund the fee portion. And the reason I say that is this. Countless families from this community have had the advantage of and the incredible support that is provided through the foundation already in the city of Victoria for a number of years. And I'm going to pluck a little at everyone's heartstrings who didn't hear me speak, but when I was a little boy, I was burned very badly and spent, I think it was 6 weeks in the Nanaimo hospital recovering from surgery. My family lived in Coombs, which wasn't that far away, but given the old highway, the fact my mother had 3 other children and a logging contractor husband who was very rarely at home and 2 sets of grandparents who didn't have access to a car, I know what it feels like when you're desperate to have someone with you, when you're in that amount of pain and suffering. And it just strikes me this is not a time to be chintzy, and I don't accuse Councillor Perino of being chintzy, but in for a penny, in for a pound, as my granny might have said. I just think that it's time this community paid back, if you will, for the support its citizens have received over the years in Victoria, and certainly a community like Campbell River, which is struggling very much with the forest industry and the economy there, that I'm going to, if I may, move that the amount be $149,900 if I have a seconder. Councillor Hemmons, I'm not going to speak to it. I think everyone understands my position on this.
So, Your Worship, you're amending the motion. You're making that amendment. Thank you.
Making that amendment. It's been seconded. Discussion on it. Councillor Perino.
I really appreciate where you're coming from, and I'm very grateful. Thank you. I was very concerned to ask for more. I wanted to ask for more and didn't want to. So I'm appreciative of your boldness, and I will absolutely support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion on the amendment, all those in favor? Sorry, Mr. Lindsay.
Didn't mean to interrupt. You could go ahead with the amendment just before the final vote. I just wouldn't mind talking to you before the final vote, but if you want to proceed with the amendment, that's fine. Just had some comments.
Okay, thank you. Sorry? The amendment is to, the amount is 149,900, not 75,000 as is the current motion. Okay, we're clear?
Isn't that just one of the original? That is the original.
When Councillor Prino made the motion, she made the motion for 75,000 only, and that was seconded.
That's right.
Right, and I'm moving an amendment to the motion on the floor to increase that amount to 149,900, which has been seconded, and that's what we're voting on. Okay, all those in favor? Councillors Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Prino, Councillor Manley, and Councillor Eastmere is opposed. Motion carries. We're back on the main motion. And Mr. Lindsay.
And this is, Worship, and given the lateness of the year, it's probably not that important, but I just want to be very clear. Of course, the recommendation from here will go to council at your meeting on December 1st. Assuming it proceeds as worded, we're paying from surplus. That means we couldn't actually physically write a check until 2026. So just as long as council is clear, we wouldn't be able to provide those funds until the new year. But given we'll be into December by the time the final decision is made, I assume that's okay.
Mr. Lindsay, I appreciate your sage advice, but I say that I have incredible confidence in the city staff who every year manage to keep us in a surplus position. They are a fabulous group, and I'm sure we'll have some surplus to spread accordingly. Ms. Gurry.
Just a technicality, you're now voting on the main motion as amended.
Yes. On the motion now as amended. All those in favor? Any, Councillor Manley's opposed? No. Oh, sorry. Good, let's just, I got to speak at a funeral and you can't be late for those things. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Council,
I think as Councillor Eastmere, was she in favor? Oh, okay, thank you.
Candidly, Council, it's not till 1 o'clock, and I'm just looking at, we're all here. There's two items, F and G. Is there any need for a substantive report on our bid to host the National Youth Track and Field Championships? Mr. Lindsay?
Your Worship, there is some time sensitivity around items F and G. Item I, which is probably worth a larger discussion and could probably benefit from having more council members around the table, and there is no push on I think that could even be deferred into early next year.
So let's deal, if we can, with F.
F.
As moved, the recommended motion.
Staff recommendation, yes.
Councillor Prino, seconded Councillor Hemmons. Any discussion?
It's fantastic.
All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is the approval to bid to host the Creative City Summit 2028, 2029, or 2030. Moved Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Eastmere. Any discussion?
Just a quick comment.
Quick comment, Councillor Manley.
I just note that both of these, I support both of them, but there is funding coming from Tourism Nanaimo, and we fund Tourism Nanaimo, and we're also funding this, and I know there's been concern at other tables about double dipping, and I just want to make sure that people are clear about that that's what we're doing here. But I do support both of these, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, Council, there is one item left, which is Council spending and amenities policy. I assume there's no question period, Ms. Gurry? We have nothing?
No, so just you are going to defer that last item I, Your Worship, to a future date?
Yes, what date? A date to be determined
To be
by
determined,
staff.
Your Worship, yeah.
All right. Moved Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Manley. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn, please. Moved Councillor Eastmere, seconded Councillor Manley. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. I appreciate the indulgence of everyone staying past noon.